What is going on, everybody? There we go. How you guys doing? Happy Wednesday. Hope you're all having a good day. Just going to pop live on TikTok real quick. As you can see, we have Luke Rosdahl hopping in with us today, so you don't just have to hear my voice all day. So, Luke, how you doing? How are things?
We're doing pretty good. I'm busy. There's a whole lot of stuff coming out with Bowl Expo coming up, and can't tell anybody anything yet, but
Yep, I just made a video that I have to post on the short form platform soon saying, hey, everybody be ready. There's going to be a lot of releases as there always is around Bowl Expo. I'm trying to remember what happened last year. I think that's when Storm announced, they announced a couple balls and then they announced the Cove and Ember for the next month. So like they did the 2 stages. Brunswick did the 2 stages because I think I was in my work parking lot and I made a video saying like, Brunswick just announced 12 bowling balls or something insane.
yeah.
So wouldn't surprise me if we see the same, but hope you guys are having a good day so far. We already had a super chat from Josh Getty. Thank you so much. Have you gotten support from Croatia before? Maybe. I don't know, but thank you. Super late here and I want to go to bed, so I'm going to bounce. Have a great stream. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would assume that's like a 10-hour, 12-hour difference, so understandable. That's awesome. JR Pro Shop hopping into chat already. Who's our number one chatter? Number one chatter today, Johnny coming in. Sorry I missed you all at Ozarks. Really wanted to meet you in person. Oh, all good. We'll be back. Don't worry. We will be back down there. And there's a lot of bowling stuff that happens in that area. So I just found out I might be going down there for a classic pro shop expo type thing down in the Kansas City area. So that'll be coming soon. Let's see who else we got. Insert name. What's going on? Yofo, Luke and Zach are the best. Thank you so much, man. James White. What's going on? Maniac, Goodfella, Zach and Luke. Today isn't my birthday. It is now, Goodfella. It is now. Unheard being the first one hopping over on Twitch. What is up? Otherwise, so today our main topic of the day is going to be going over the Greater Ozarks tournament that we bowled a couple of weeks ago. That was late May. So we're going to talk about our experiences, our time, what we threw. I know some of you guys got a little bit of a taste of that over on Patreon or on some of the short form platforms, but we're going to go a little deeper dive on what Luke saw, what I saw. And otherwise, we're just going to have bowling talk. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. We just had the World Championships, which we really didn't talk about a couple of days ago. There's PWBA stuff. Jillian Martin just won the US Open. A lot of other stuff is going on. So we're just going to jump all over. Remember, it's Q&A, so we'll try to hit whatever, some kind of questions that you guys have as well. We probably won't hit all of them. So if you're giving Arsenal tips, we probably won't be able to hit 100% of them, but we'll probably hit a couple here and there. But yeah, let's get it going. Seeing if there's anything big in chat right now. Nothing too crazy. So let's talk about Greater Ozarks. Let's see what all that's about. Are there a couple of weeks left yet? I don't even remember what the end date was. So. Okay.
It doesn't go quite as long as Nationals, but I think it goes through the end of June at least, maybe a little into July, but it runs almost as long as Nationals does.
Yeah, it's a crazy amount of time, but they only bowl on weekends compared to every day, all day. Still the craziest thing with Nationals, how they get that many squads in per day. It's bonkers in my head. But yeah, but we concluded our bowling there. We bowled team, doubles, and singles. For anyone who isn't aware, it is a tournament set up just like Nationals, where you have a specific pattern for the team event, 5-person teams, and then you have a different pattern for doubles and singles, and actually a different venue as well for doubles and singles. So we'll start talking about team a little bit, what we noticed. That house was higher friction. I should have the pattern up. If I remember right, though, it was about 45 feet, 33 mils.
Yeah, 32 is like 31.95 or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, it was technically heavy on paper.
Yeah, it was heavier, but as we noticed, it really wasn't. I mean, what was the biggest ball you threw all weekend? Like, do you throw anything bigger than that spawn?
Well, I threw the spawn. It is a pretty big. I mean, it's a pretty big ball with a pretty big cover, but at the same time, it was lane shined. So we didn't have, and that's normally what you think, like 45 feet, 32 mils is like Dragon. It's like PBA Dragon. You're thinking it's really long, and that's a bunch of volume. I mean, anytime you get over 30 mils, you're dealing with PBA volumes and PBA volumes plus, even because I mean, a lot of you go to nationals and a lot of people are like, wow, I can't get anything to hook. Well, those patterns are normally only 28, 29 mils, which is still very high. But when you're talking about this, most people are going to go out there and think, gosh, I need the strongest ball I have at 1,000 grit, and we could not throw the strongest balls that we have at 1,000 grit. It had to be lane shined or and I'm kind of surprised I got away with that. And it really, I should have put it away a long time before I did, but it was at least kind of in play, and you were able to throw your Spartan that's kind of a similar ball from Ebonite, but also not dull.
No, I think surface was the big one. None of us tried anything under probably 3,000 grit, 2,000 grit, maybe. I mean, I think my phase 2 was at about 3 at that point. I don't think anything we had was under that by any means that we really threw down the lane. We didn't really need anything like that. We were already a little bit left to kick it off, just forced to be there.
Because I mean, stuff got offline really quick, and it's kind of like you start bowling in practice with just normal stuff, and it's kind of like, I think we were all surprised that it's like, oh, okay, well, we're thinking, okay, we're going to start a little straighter, we're going to burn kind of the outside and whatever else. And it's like, oh, it's hooking off 3-board. I guess we don't have to do that. So
yep,
I think we all just kind of chased it down. I think my wife tried something with some surface on it, and it's like, well, that's definitely not the answer. And so yeah, I'm doing some instructional videos at the moment. I just did something earlier talking about things that people need to stop doing the bowling math thing and kind of take things as they are, because I think there's a lot of people that would show up to that tournament and say, well, it's very heavy, it's very long, and so I need this strength of ball with this surface on it, and I have to play here and I have to do this. And then you see it not working, and it's like, well, this is confusing because the pattern says this and whatever else, and I'm not getting that ball reaction. And this was definitely a good example of, okay, we're just going to forget what's on that pattern graph, and we're going to have to bowl on what we're bowling on right now, which just did not seem anything like if we'd have just bowled on that first and figured it out and then looked at the graph afterwards, we're like, is this the right one? This does not seem like this was a thing.
Yeah, it was. It's kind of that's a pretty typical thing in bowling, that especially like upper Midwest for me, like we'll put out 44 feet, 35 mils, and it hooks off the planet. Like I think it was the last weekend or 2 weekends ago, we had a Baker doubles tournament up here in my area of southern Minnesota, and we had one of the lanes, I think, was 44 feet, 34 mils. And everyone, like, I saw a bunch of people try grabbing Zero Mercies, Black Widows, Ion Maxes, and the thing sparked at 20 feet because the surfaces are such high friction. Like, the thing we noticed in team was the track hooked so much. So for anyone who doesn't know what the track is, that's basically a line around like second arrow, where that's where most of the league play has happened for years and years and years. So the topography goes a little bit downhill, because if you throw a 15-pound object on a surface for years and years, it's going to wear and tear. So that's pretty much what happened to these lanes. And we noticed if you got it into that track, the ball wanted to hook pretty quickly off of it.
Yeah. And aside from that, it's high friction. The oil came off the lanes pretty quick. And so you might have a shot for a little bit, and then you'd have to move into something else. The ball that I started with to begin with looked good in practice. And then for exactly 2 shots of the first game, and then it hooked to 20 feet on the third shot, and it's like, well, I guess we can't do that. And so then we just kept chasing it, because it just, and again, the track gets really worn, and so it hooks more than it should to begin with. And of course the lane surface itself factors into that. And so yeah, that was one of those, don't pay attention to the numbers, just do what we need to do. And then it depends on who you're bowling with too, and where they're playing, and there's a lot of things that go into it. But yeah, definitely played a whole lot drier than it looked like it was going to play on paper. We had to keep chasing it. And, it's always hindsight. I wish I would have done something different, or gotten out of this ball quicker, or whatever. But we can kind of cover that as we go through the games and such.
Yeah, because was that the shot for yours that went Brooklyn?
Yeah, yeah, it
That
hooked
was
it
the one
with,
that sparked.
yeah, because it's like, I started out with the Unreal Solid, and it looked great in practice, and then it looked pretty good for the first couple shots, and then it literally hooked at 20 feet and went Brooklyn, and it was kind of like, oh, okay, so we're doing this. This makes sense.
Yep. That was a shot that all of us in the back kind of looked at each other like, oh, we're going to take a step left now.
Yeah, yeah,
Good validation that everyone, whatever you're looking at, just move a little bit deeper and then you'll be good to go. That's pretty much
yeah,
what happened. Like I started with a phase 2 and it looked all right for a little bit. And then I saw that happen and I saw mine trying to spark and it's like, nope, we're taking a step left and grabbing something a little bit shinier.
yeah, and that's another thing that that I'm going to talk about in one of the videos that I'm doing is the whole, well, I can't read ball reaction if or somebody's watching a video, it's like, oh, I wish so and so would have thrown this ball because I don't throw it like you, so I can't tell what the ball's doing. It's like, well, that might be something that other people say, or you might just kind of accept that as like a normal thing, but it's really not, because you guys got there's plenty of free information to be had just by watching everybody else throw a ball and see what it does. And so if you can only read your own ball reaction, you're going to be locked in some tiny little box and not be able to see, like, that was free information. It sucked for me. Well, it didn't suck for me because I
Yeah,
at least struck.
yeah,
But
it's still struck. You're
everybody
good.
else watching behind, it's like, well, you can go on ahead and see that and make an adjustment yourself before you have something similar happen to you, and maybe you don't get as lucky and get a Brooklyn. Maybe it's a big four or whatever else. So even though we had all kinds of different bowler styles, like that group that we were with, everybody threw it different, from all kinds of different places. But you got to be able to watch what everybody else is doing, where they're playing, what they're throwing, whatever else. So there's just all kinds of free information out there. And yeah, that one was a eyebrow raiser for sure.
Yeah, yeah, Kuya on TikTok exactly. If one of the biggest skills is like, especially for team things or even singles, like if you got to be able to read the guys around you, whether they're
Mm-hmm.
two-handed, one-handed, speed dominant, rev dominant. If you can't read them, kind of like watching a ball review, you got to be able to read different people because no one's going to throw it identically like you. It just doesn't happen. Nobody has the same rev rate, same speed, same
Yeah.
rotation, tilt, same lane surfaces. It's impossible. So you got to be able to read all of the guys out there to be able to get an idea on what this ball does, on how the lanes break down, things like that. One of the best things in tournaments that I like to do, like if you're going crossing pairs and you're not first, watch so closely on that first frame what the person before you does. Because
Mm-hmm.
if this seems like they throw a shot that looks pretty good and it goes high, or it looks pretty good and it 210s, kind of tells you a little bit of information how you can kind of guess how that lane's breaking down. So that's a skill that, yeah, no one really talks about. So good call to make a video on it. Cause yeah, I even had a conversation yesterday with someone at the pro shop. They're like, man, I just don't watch ball reviews from guys who are like Hickland, who's a lefty, or from any two-hander. I'm not going to watch that. I watch the PWBA girls, and that's how I know if a ball is good or not. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's not the right way to go at it.
Yeah, and I think it's just, that's one of those things where people kind of get an idea in their head, or they get told from other people that they bowl with, um, just different things, and it may not sound right, but it's like, well, they've been bowling for a long time, so they should know what they're talking about, and most of the time they don't.
Yep.
But anything that you can learn or improve on, like there's a lot of people, like I'm sure that you can do the same thing with, when I'm watching other videos, I'll just skim through and I'll watch, like, okay, well, I want to see a couple shots playing straighter, a couple shots a little bit deeper, just to kind of get a feel for what a ball does. I can watch 5 or 6 shots and it's like, yep, I don't need to know what the layout is. I don't need to know what the pattern is. They may or may not throw it like I do, whatever else. But you watch so many different people throw bowling balls, so often, you kind of know, it's like, oh, okay, well, so if I go to watch, well, obviously it works for me both ways since I have bowled both lefty and righty, but I can go watch Hicklin throw a ball, and then I can watch Hutch on the hype throw a ball. Very completely different games on different sides of the lane. He's speed dominant, doesn't put a whole lot on it. Um, Hutch kind of slow rolls it, but I can tell what the ball's doing, even though they're completely different styles, different sides of the lane, whatever else. But you just get used to seeing, and it's like, okay, well, nothing is, like you said, the variables are always going to be different. So I think bowling is so convoluted and confusing that people try to lock things down, and it's like, okay, well, I want to get this down and say, okay, if I threw this ball on this pattern, it had this surface and whatever else, next time I bowl on that pattern somewhere else, well, I can do all this stuff the same and it's going to work, and it won't. I
Never.
can guarantee you. And so that's one of those things where people might think it's like, oh, okay, well, they don't throw it like I do, so I really can't get a read. It's like, well, you should be able to. And if you can't, don't feel bad, because we all had to learn how to do that. But it just, the more you can learn, the more it helps you.
Yeah, one thing I wish, if I had infinite money and power, I would love to have 10 bowling centers. Like in, say, for me, the closest area would be the Twin Cities, have them all put out the identical pattern in all 10 places. And I line up on every single one and showcase, here's where I would be with this ball. Here's where I would be with on all 10, just to show, hey, it the surface matters more than the pattern does a lot of the time.
Yeah, and that's actually where I learned that the most, because in Kansas City we do kind of have that situation where we've got all kinds of different centers with all kinds of different lane types. We've got some pro lane, we've got some HPLs, and some of them are different ages. Some of them are 5 years old, some are 30 years old, and whatever else. And there's a couple of guys that run just a traveling kind of difficult pattern. It's not, they normally use challenge patterns. That's actually why I started using Chromium for my reviews, because they put out a lot of the challenge patterns. And so we'd see like we saw Chromium a lot of the time, and there was one year they put it down in several different places. And so I'm like, okay, well, I bowl at one center and I'm on Chromium, and it's like, okay, this is what I figured out. So I took all the same equipment and whatever else, and it's like the different house, it's like, okay, what's going on here? Because this doesn't play anything like Chromium played at the other place. And so I end up just knowing, okay, this house is higher friction, and so I don't really care what the lane graph says. I need to take these certain balls at these kind of certain surfaces, because I'm playing the house more than the pattern. And then I adjust a little bit. Obviously, if you're playing on, Chromium, you're going to take different stuff if you're bowling on red square, even if it is the same place. But you still know generally it's like, okay, well, if this place is higher friction, it's just going to play drier across the board. We had the first time I had gone out to bowl at one center, we ended up bowling on the Carmen Salvino pattern or something, which was like 44 feet or 42 feet. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was kind of on the long-ish end and kind of the heavy-ish end. And so I took my strong stuff, and I didn't really do that well the first couple games. And one of the local bowlers, great bowler that just didn't get off work in time to bowl the tournament, he came out to hang out for a little bit, and he's like, no, you're not, that's not going to work. What's the weakest thing that you brought with you? And I said, well, I brought a high road, but I didn't really, a 6-game sweeper I didn't expect to get down to. He's like, throw the high road. And so I threw the high road and ended up averaging 240 the back four, and actually got into the cash line. But it definitely, looking at the pattern, it's like, why would I be throwing a high road on, fresh, 44 feet, 27 mils or something like that? It just didn't make any sense. But that's when you start, forgetting the stuff, the information, and start paying attention to what's actually happening.
Yeah, that was like, I think you might have mentioned in a recent video, but Bill O'Neill's point, I think he had it on Sweep the Rack, where he was like, yeah, I just do the opposite of what sometimes my head's telling me to. And I did notice today, I made a recap of the World Series that's coming out, I think tomorrow, and he's 12 for 12 on caches this year. I didn't realize that. He's 100% third in average right now.
Oh, wow.
And
yeah, because he just hasn't really made TV.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. He made TV once this last week, and otherwise, like, he's made every match play, or he's made every cut, which is crazy. And he came out, yeah, sometimes what I think I need to do, I just have to do the opposite, and it's fine. So yeah, that's kind of how you have to go at some of these tournaments. So that's why the Arsenal guides, that's why having like a well-rounded group of balls is going to be the play. Because, yeah, if you top load too much, like, I'm going to bring all my strong stuff. I'm bringing an Ion Max and a Zero Mercy and a Spartan and a Phase 2 and all this stuff. And then you get there and it plays bone dry. Or, sometimes the happenstance, they put out the wrong pattern. That happens once every 1,000 tournaments or so. You're out of luck.
Yeah, and that's because there were... Again, I bowled this tournament before several times. I know what the centers generally do, but this is the first time I bowled righty in several years, and my game is not quite what it used to be. And so I went into it thinking it's like, oh, okay, well, I know that they're higher friction surfaces, but there's still a lot of oil, and so it ended up being that there were a couple balls I took that I'm like, well, I definitely could have left these at home, and a couple balls I left at home that I definitely would have wanted if I would have known. But that's why you can't. I mean, sometimes you have to use the information that you have to the best of your knowledge and ability, but you also can't stick so firmly to the script or to your formulas or whatever else that you don't have contingency plans. Like, I'll even recommend to people, it's like, okay, so if you're going to a tournament and you have and it's supposed to be heavier volume, it's supposed to be whatever else, I will recommend, it's like, well, should I take these balls? I'm going to take this at 1,000 grit and this at 2,000 grit or whatever. A lot of the time I'll recommend, it's like, well, take all of them lane shined, because you can add surface if you get into practice and you need more surface, you can add surface. But if you get into practice and you need something polished, that's kind of a problem. And because there was a couple balls I took with surface, and I'm like, man, if this would have been polished or lane shine, I'd have been able to throw it. But because it has surface on it, it's like, well, I mean, I can run down to the pro shop and do something about it. But, there goes 5 minutes of practice. And especially in singles and doubles, the ball I tried that I wish would have been polished or lane shined or just not been at like 2,000 grit, we got 6 minutes of practice. And so if I throw it once, I'm like, well, I'm going to run down to the pro shop that's on the complete other end of this 48 lane center and, wait in line and whatever else. By the time I'd have gotten back with that ball, we're already starting to bowl. And it's like, okay, am I going to burn I've got money in brackets. Am I going to burn the first, 3 or 4 frames of this trying to try this ball out? And then I don't get a look at anything else and whatever else. So it's just a problem.
Yeah, in general too, like you kind of know what balls you want to keep surface on.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have, I mean, those big, like for me, I'll always have my ion max at 2,000 grit or less. Like if I need to use a lane shined ion max, I probably have another ball in the bag that works. Yeah. That's a lower end bowling ball in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, it's good to know those things.
And sometimes you just don't use a ball. That's the other thing too, is it's kind of interesting that people they'll drill a bunch of different balls so that they can fill out their arsenal, but then they want to be able to just be able to just take them out of the bag and throw them at league just at will. And it's kind of like, well, if you buy a ball like an Ion Max and you want that to be your big heavy oil ball, well, unless you're on heavy oil, you're just not going to be throwing that ball. Maybe you want to, but it's probably going to sit in the bag a lot, and so you don't want to drill it weaker and shine it up so that you can actually throw it. It's like you want it to be your heavy oil ball. So it's just tricky.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's like, I know when we get into singles and doubles, we'll hit that quite a bit because there are some balls I threw that I do not throw in my area at all, just almost ever. But we'll get into that one in just a minute. John on YouTube has a good question. For the Ozarks, is the heavier friction on both sides or only on the right side? So what he means is Sunshine, where you're bowling at in Springfield, is actually a split center. So half the lanes are on one side of the building, half the lanes are on the other. And I didn't realize the other half plays different, but I don't remember why. I saw some people later on who were talking about that. But what do you know about that?
It's generally speaking, and I know that this happens in a lot of centers, and it happens at Royal Crest where I shoot my videos at. A lot of the time, certain centers will have, like that center, I can imagine them having most of their leagues on one side of the house and most of their open player birthday parties on the other side. And that actually works out kind of fantastically, because if you have birthday parties and open play and whatever on the complete other side of the center, they can be loud. You can play music. You can, do the cosmic thing or whatever else, while other people on the complete other side of the building are bowling league. And you can have both of those things kind of coexist. But Royal Crest, for example, if they have leagues, they start them on the low end of the house, and then they kind of work their way towards the high end. If they have a busy night for leagues, they use all the lanes. But if they don't, then the leagues are kind of on like 1 through 10 or 1 through 16 or however many lanes they take up. And so the lanes that have the league play on them, they're going to develop that track more that we were talking about earlier, where bowlers on the normal house shot normally play around here, and so that gets most of the wear and tear. That creates higher friction in that part of the lane. There's a whole lot more use from stronger bowling balls that have surface on them and whatever. And on the higher end or on the other side of the bowling center, you might have a lot of open play that's just house balls going straight down the middle of the lane. So the kind of traffic that the lane gets is going to dictate how it plays. So typically the lower end of that house is lower scoring than the higher end of that house. So the side that we were bowling on is typically higher scoring than the other side of the house in sunshine, at sunshine specifically.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
So,
that makes sense. Yeah, it's always interesting seeing those split houses. You don't see them all that often. They usually have to be pretty big places. I forget how many lanes Sunshine has. Was it 48?
I think it's 48.
Okay. Yeah, so
It's at least 40.
Yeah, pretty big place. But yeah, going to team, what did you all throw? What? Because you threw 3 balls in total?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what ball I finished with, because I started with the Unreal Solid, and I thought that that would be a good kind of compromise. I didn't have any surface on it. It was lane shine. It wasn't super shiny, but it was kind of lane shined. And I thought, well, because in years past, I'd always had trouble with angle control there, because there used to be more of an out of bounds. And I think that, in talking with James, it's like that's the easiest that team has started out in as long as I can remember. It felt pretty, and that's kind of funny that normally it starts off really bad and then it kind of gets a little bit more playable throughout the day and then it finishes off bad. But it actually started off pretty playable. I think that we were all kind of licking our chops a little bit thinking, wow, if this actually holds up a little bit, we could have something here. But angle control had always been a big thing. And, I thought, okay, if I can keep the ball in front of me, stay out of trouble, not try to rip the cover off of it or get super deep, because again, it's a higher friction center, and if you start too deep, you kind of end up trapping yourself. You just run out of room when they start getting dry, and then you really can't move back to the right. And so I threw an Unreal Solid to start off with, which again looked good in practice. It was doing all the things I wanted it to do, and then it started taking off. And so I ended up going to the Spawn, which looked really good for the first game. I've got my recap up here. I did shoot 236 the first game, which was fantastic. I was super excited about that. And then I tried as hard as I could to shoot like 130 the second game, and I managed 170. But I think that the biggest problem was I stuck on the Spawn way too long, and I tried to move with it, and then it started getting tricky, and then I started making bad shots because I felt that the walls were kind of closing in on me, and then I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do from there. I think I ended up throwing the Covert Revolt, or the new EJ Covert.
Yep.
And then I think I tried that Red Vendetta that was just like at the very, very end of the last game. But I think I went from the Spawn to the EJ Covert because of similar shapes, just EJ Covert symmetric, cleaner ball. Just as we got left on the lane, just needed something to the Spawn started bogging down and burning up a little bit, and then enough angle as we kept moving in, and it just wasn't quite making the corner. But yeah, it was the Spawn for game and a half, 2 games, and then the EJ Covert for most of the rest of it. And then of course that last game we got down kind of the end of it, and I think I just threw a couple shots with that Red Vendetta for fun. But
yeah, it seemed like the last game you guys were hitting a lot of over under, because we had a lot of guys playing a bit straighter on our pair, because we had, like we said, a mix of a couple rev dominant guys, speed dominant, everything in between. So we had not a crazy amount of rev rate. We had James on our pair, James Niffen, who has a lot of hand for anyone who's seen him in some past Luke videos or knows him through the area. He's been in bowl. You've seen him on various channels. He has his own channel, things like that. But he has a lot of hand, very heavy ball roll, so he can tear a pattern up pretty quick. But the rest of our guys really weren't absurdly high rev rates by any means. So it did hold together pretty well. I mean, I was off in my own little wonderland in game 3, so I didn't see a lot of what you guys were seeing. But it looked super, super cliffy is what we were kind of running into, which is shocking for a pattern that long and with, quote, that much oil. But because everyone was kind of playing a similar break point, it happens.
Yeah, and that's again why you've got to be able to read other people's ball reaction and pay attention, because a lot of times people, they'll throw a shot and then they'll go back to their beer or the card game or whatever else, or whatever game's on TV, and they won't watch another shot. They'll watch their own ball reaction because, well, I can't tell what those guys are doing or whatever. But if you kind of notice, it's like, well, if everybody's playing a similar break point, even if somebody's, 10 at the arrows, next person's 12 at the arrows, and 14, 17, 20, so on and so forth. If everybody's hitting like 7, 8 at the break point, that's going to get pretty crispy pretty fast. And so you've got to be ready to move away from that. And if you have, even if it's on higher friction lane surface, that's still a lot of volume that's on the lane. And so it's still going to you're still going to kind of feel that to some degree. It's really weird. It's kind of a really weird experience to feel like the ball is both hooking at your feet and, actually reading the oil that's supposed to be there. But yeah, there was, and you were able that last game to be able to kind of get away from that and play more of a fade fallback kind of deal, which is also kind of interesting because a lot of the times, I matching up and getting the right ball in your hands is a big deal now. It's not enough to just throw it well and make good decisions and whatever else. If you can't get the ball through the pins the right way, you could have a really nice looking 630 series because you just can't get a corner out, or you go 10 pin, 4 pin, 9 pin, whatever else. But yeah, we were really struggling, and you made it look super easy that last game, but you were kind of inside and away and doing something a little bit different than the rest of us were.
Yeah, I just got in with an Ebonite Spartan. That's my baby right now. Um, One that ball's a really good one that can blend that over under. Like I still had a little bit of that. If I got it out, the ball wanted to jump off of it. But
Mm-hmm.
because the Spartan is so big, at least that cover and core combo like wants to be a little bit smoother. So when it hit that, it didn't want to jump off of it. However,
Yeah.
I was deep enough where I could still spin the ball through the front part of the lane without it picking up, burning up any of that, and still go through the pins pretty well. So that ended up, yeah, working well. That's been a pretty good cliff ball for me lately. Just usually those bigger, stronger balls are going to be good for the cliff, but you got to get it through that front part of the lane, which can also be its own challenge.
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't necessarily call you speed dominant per se. I think you're pretty firm with it because you do have a pretty decent rev rate too. But yeah, I think that's one of the things where the rest of us were dealing with the over under and kind of struggling a little bit. I've got a little bit heavier roll, and so my ball tends to see more of the lane up front. But you were firm enough to where you were able to kind of keep it in front of you and just push it through the mids and maybe push it through some of the friction that the rest of us weren't able to, and then still get it to kind of come around the corner there. And just the shot shape that you were playing, everything was just kind of, again, when people are like, we're on the same, it's like, were we actually bowling on the same lanes here?
Yeah.
Because one of these scores is not like the others. But that's when it comes into all things kind of lining up. You made a good ball choice. You were in the right place, doing the right thing. Your game fit what was going on, and then you were able to execute on top of it. So that was pretty cool. Especially I started fast and finished kind of slow, and you made a series of adjustments really quickly after having some, just getting lined up the first game. Then you had some just misfortune, but you figured it out really well. And after that start, to be able to shoot one of the high sets of the day in team was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think I weaseled out a 660 with a 280 and 288 in the last game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's kind of the tournament side of things. Is you have to be running around and doing different plans, having an A, B, and C so often. So like right when I don't know, your head does the same thing where like you get into a situation where you're in that tournament setting and it's like, all right, if this happens, I go here. If this happens, I can do this. If this happens, I can try this. My other option is this. If I want a third option, I can go to that. And you just have all these different plans that your brain kind of rapid fires through at times. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what happened there. Cause I was in a Rockstar Amped before that and it looked good. And then it ran into a few carry issues. And immediately my head's like, all right, what's going to be the next ball down? That's not going to be too low. It's not going to be like, a next factor or a high road where it's going to be super, super long, but it still needs to be early enough, but it needs to get longer than a Rockstar amped, but it needs to still be quick enough to turn the corner because I'm playing a little deeper on the lane. So there's all these different things. But yeah, it went pretty okay. And I think our team overall is pretty close to the cut. I don't think we're going to weasel our way in, but we're off by like 40 or something.
Yeah, probably not going to end up cashing, but we did. I would say that we did pretty well, all things considered. But yeah, that's one of those things where when somebody asks for a specific question, it's like, okay, I'm bowling on this tournament. This is the pattern. Here are my options. What's going to be my 1 ball or my 2 ball? What should I do with this? And it's like, well, we don't even know, because even me bowling in these centers a dozen times or whatever and seeing the lane conditions, I still didn't know what was going to happen. You can get close enough, but that's why you have to kind of have a game plan, but be ready to just kind of scrap everything and just pay attention to what your ball reaction's telling you. And even then, you still might have to cycle through a few options because you don't always know exactly what's going to work. If you did, then pro bowlers would never shoot a game under 200 or whatever. You'd never have these situations where it's like, man, what is this ball doing? You got to make your best guess in every situation, and the more experience you have, the better guesses you can make and the quicker that you can get through them. But that's the best and the worst thing about bowling is that experience is a huge factor. So I don't really mind. I'm going to be 45 in August, and I don't really mind being older, even though things are kind of slowing down, because I've got all this stuff now that I can. It's kind of fun seeing the kids. I'm turning into the old guy that the kids are like, oh man, this old guy throws it with one hand and he uses his thumb and he's kicking my ass. And it's like, well, yeah, because I'm just, because you've got the experience. And bowling's one of those things where experience, I think, matters a whole lot more than it may in other games where, people get to a certain age and it's like, well, I just can't physically compete in this game anymore because I don't have the endurance, I don't have the athleticism anymore. I'm just getting old and I have to hang it up. Well, in bowling, you can keep going and you continue to learn these tricks. And the point of paying attention to all this stuff is to then be able to strip it back down and say, okay, well, sure, I have all these bowling balls with all these surfaces and all these layouts and whatever else. But the point is, I need to bring that all back to just ball reaction. And sometimes, forget everything, basically like the Matrix, forget what you think,
I'm now calling that the Bill O'Neill strategy now that I've heard him say that. Just scrap it all, do what you think wouldn't work, and then hope it works. Yeah. Let's jump to the fun portion of the event, which was singles and doubles, because we ran into a doozy for singles and doubles. So for anyone just joining us, we're talking about the Greater Ozarks Open. This is a tournament that happens in Springfield, Missouri. It's a team doubles and singles event. Luke and I were there just a couple of weeks ago at the end of May. We competed in both the team portion, which we just talked about. Our team is just a little bit under the cut line, but then we're now moving over to singles and doubles, which was the next day in a brand new building. So Luke and I were on lanes 1 and 2, and this was I actually have the patterns up now. This one was a 43-foot pattern, 26.5 mils, 26.65 mils, a 6-to-1 ratio. So more of that challenge pattern. And it wasn't supposed to be too hard, not really too easy. It's a good amount of volume. It's lower friction lane surfaces where we were. But what happened in our first couple shots of practice?
Yeah, so I started with my Craze Tour Solid at 2000 grit or whatever, because I had heard some things and I thought, well, this is another thing, is I'm going to try to play a little bit straighter and control it. It's not as, on paper, the pattern isn't nearly as difficult as what the team pattern looked like. It's basically just a little heavier, little longer house shot with an out of bounds. It just doesn't have the friction bumper where you can just try and chuck it at 5 board and watch it turn sideways. And so again, I wanted to play a little bit straighter. And again, we're bowling on it for 6 games. we didn't have a whole lot of people on the lane. Because I think we only had 4 on our
Yep.
pair,
We just
didn't
had
we?
4. Everyone else had 6.
But even then, it's still like, okay, well, I want to play kind of straighter. I don't want to start at 4th arrow and then run out of room in game 3. Little did we know, but yeah, that ball hooked at 20 feet, and I'm like, okay, well, that's fantastic, because sometimes one of the better strategies to combat bigger volumes on higher friction lane surfaces is to use a weaker cover with a little bit of surface, because stronger covers, even if they're shiny, tend to just kind of bog down sometimes. You just get to a point where you can't throw the bigger covers no matter what surface they're at. But a weaker cover that's not going to see the lane so much, you can still put a little bit of surface on them and kind of bridge that gap to where the ball doesn't read the surface so much because of the weaker cover, but you still have to have a little bit of surface to kind of not necessarily get the ball to hook through the volume, but just get it to be more controllable, more stable, so that it kind of sees the lane more consistently. But yeah, that ball took off. And it really felt like we had 2 different patterns on each lane, because lane 1 was significantly drier than lane 2 was. And you started in your next factor on
Yep.
lane 1, right, on 43
Yep.
feet and 27 mils. So that's
That was a
that's a
new
fun
one.
story.
And
Yeah.
my next factor, I don't throw that ball much. It is my very, very end of day in case of emergency. I maybe have 10 games on it. Practiced with it a couple times, threw it at Greater Ozarks. I threw it at a scratch tournament up here. Otherwise, I barely throw the thing because I never have to get that low in my bag. Because a lot of tournaments, you're not really getting down to those super weak balls,
Yeah.
especially if they're putting down a flatter pattern, a lot more ratio. And if people are starting with urethane, then you're usually in those mid-tier bowling balls a lot of the day. But this was a situation where, yeah, I wanted to throw an effect tour a little bit, hoping that would blend things out, and that took off instantly.
Yeah.
Try to phase 2, that took off instantly. Kept balling down, said, screw it, tried a next factor, and it was good enough. It wasn't
Yeah.
great, but it was good enough. And yeah, so I started with my second lowest bowling ball in my bag in game 1 of 6.
Yeah, and that the next factor is actually the first ball I left at home, because I took I really like the Venom Hysteria. It's definitely the best shiny pearl Venom Shock, whatever, which is
Oh,
basically what it is that they put out, I think. And I thought I wasn't even expecting to get down to that, let alone need anything underneath it. And so I kept waffling back and forth on the next factor. It's like, gosh, I'm just not going to throw it because it's so clean. And mine is smoother than most people, and some people say it's flippy, but I think for the most part, the next factor is a pretty clean and rounder kind of shaping ball. And I thought, I'm just not going to get down to it. It's going to sit in the bag, and I'm going to be mad that I brought it and whatever else. And then it's like I even needed a ball under that. I wish I'd have brought my Craze Tour Pearl, because it's basically just a cleaner, slower Venom Hysteria, which is exactly what I needed the last couple games, especially. The last game was just bad. It was just bad for both of us. We made all the adjustments we could, just didn't really happen. But once we got into doubles, I started to kind of lose the look and never could. Everything was just too much. And then we'd have one lane in good shape for a while, or we'd kind of get that one figured out, and then we'd lose the other lane. And then as soon as we got the other lane back, then we'd lose the first lane. And so it was just very, very interesting day.
yeah. Yeah, like the other lane, I was able to start with an Ion Pro. Probably about 2 to 3,000 grit. It was what I used at nationals, so it wasn't very shiny by any means. Didn't have many games on it between my resurface, and that would have been fine. Ended up going to something a little bit flippier, assuming I needed it. Just looking at how the other lane was, trying to future plan, and threw a Rockstar amped, and it was all right. It wasn't anything too crazy, but yeah, trying to play. I don't know how many people here have bowled a dual pattern tournament, but one of the hardest things is flipping your brain over for every lane you're on.
Mm-hmm.
If you're throwing like different bowling balls, different lines, different speeds, whatever it may be, just making sure you have to flip your brain so you know, all right, this lane I am doing this thing, this lane I am doing this thing. Unfortunately, in bowling, doubles are a really important thing, and if you have 2 different things going on each lane, it makes
Yeah.
doubling a little bit tougher.
Yeah, just the every other, and then the lanes transition differently. Like the right lane just continued to kept, it was okay to start off with, but then it carried down a little bit. And so if you got just a little bit firm, or you got it out just a little bit, it'd wiggle, or the ball just wouldn't finish. And then you'd get to lane one, and you were just, chucking it right. And it's really interesting to try to make the adjustment on every single shot. Um, but yeah, it was fun, I guess you'd say. But that's definitely where some people would have stopped and gone and told the front desk, well, I don't know what's going on in lane, something's wrong with lane one, and whatever else. And I think we had mentioned that, and somebody said, well, you need to talk to the tournament director. And it's like, I think it was just a thing, because
Mhm.
sometimes that happens. And some people that bowl there say, well, 1 and 2 is the worst pair in the house. And normally, if you're on an end pair, one of the lanes is normally a whole lot drier than the other, even if they burn a lane. Because a lot of the time in the tournaments, if you're running a different pattern than the house pattern or the last pattern that you put out, you want to run one lane first and then rerun it again to kind of get the oil and the brushes and the cloths and whatever else. But you want to run the pattern once to get the machine primed, so to speak, and then you run it again. But if you just start with a fresh pattern on, or maybe you just changed the cloth in there, you have kind of dry brushes or whatever else, and you run that first lane and you don't burn that lane, well, that's going to be a whole lot drier than the next several lanes that you keep running. But sometimes, it could be topography, it could be whatever else, just that end lane just significantly drier than the other one. And it makes it interesting. It's good for practice. But when you're in a tournament, you want to score. You don't, I'm not interested in learning anything at a tournament. You do whether you want to or not. But it's like, I'm at a tournament to score and make money.
Yeah.
I don't want this to be a learning experience right now.
Yeah, so that's always a tough thing, but yeah, when you get an end pair, it happens. I know that happened at our state tournament with my team. We had one of our teams on the end pair, and we watched the mechanic didn't burn a pair, and lane 18, which was the first pair he hit, hooked. I think they said 5, 6, 7, 8 more than
Mhm.
lane 17, and that's nothing you can do about it once the game starts. It's not a it's just an oopsie that happens. So you just got to find a way to combat it. That's all it is.
Yeah, and that's kind of the nature of bowling too. Is um, again, people want to try to lock things down, or they want to. Every time you go to a tournament, you want to score, you want to make money, but sometimes you just get a bad pair, and sometimes you don't match up, or sometimes we have a challenge like this to where we're basically bowling on two different things that transition differently and doing different things on what should be the same condition. Um, but at the same time, that stuff happens in bowling. There are better pairs in the house. You might get a bad draw. You might get a if you don't have a companion team, you might get a rough draw on who you're bowling with. You might get a great draw. But just because we go out there and maybe didn't bowl the best, like I went 690 in singles. I had a really good look for. I succeeded, made some good shots in singles, and then I completely lost the look on the same pair of lanes. I went 690 like 550 or something. And so sometimes you can even flip flop in the same. And I don't think I threw it any worse necessarily in doubles than I did in singles. It's just the lanes got tough, and bowlers like to be a little too hard nosed about stuff like that. And it's like, well, if you would have made good shots and made the right adjustments and whatever else, you could have done this. And it's like, well, yeah, theoretically, but just saying, well, I didn't match up, or I didn't this or whatever else. Um, it just sometimes you aren't going to be able to. Sometimes it's not an excuse for like bowling bad. There's a difference between bowling bad and just not bowling well enough to cash or well enough to win or compete or whatever else, because you need, especially at a bigger tournament, you need the stars to kind of align and a lot of things for to go right for you to compete. But that was just one of those things where I think we did pretty good for what we were faced with. And it's not making excuses. It's just talking about, well, this happened and this was kind of tough, and did the best we could, and it just you know just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. There's some things like I know it's one of the running jokes like the bowling gods take it giveth and the bowling gods taketh away is a
Yeah.
couple or about a month prior I won our team portion of the Minnesota State tournament. We were given a really good pair. A pair that played each pair or each lane played identical. There was nothing crazy, nothing special. It was just the best pair in the house. And
Hmm.
that helps you get those high scores. So when you can get those extra little benefits, extra little bumps, it's great. It's kind of like we can bring that back to the World Championship on Sunday. We had EJ lose the Masters on a ring 10 on a really good shot, and we
Yeah.
fast forward a couple of months and he wins because Wilkins pocket 4 9s in a shot where
Yeah.
he needed a mark.
Yeah.
So
Or
what?
stuff like Randy Peterson's infamous 8-pin. Like, how do you throw it better than that?
Yeah,
There's just people will say they'll have those sayings like that. Oh, the bowling gods and this and that, and they have their superstitions and whatever else. But then some things like that happen. It's like, well, you should have made this adjustment or you should have thrown it better or whatever. And sometimes that's just not a thing.
mm-hmm.
Like sometimes it's just not. Bowling is there's so many variables, there's so many randoms, there's so many whatever that it's kind of like gambling to a certain degree where you just have to, it's kind of like playing poker to where you have a good idea what's going on. The more experienced poker players, even though the cards are all in there randomly, they kind of get a feel for things. They get a feel for other people, but you never really know for sure what that next card is going to be. Even though okay, well there's four different suits and there's this many cards in this suit, and you have a good idea based on what you see on the table and what you have in your hand and how everybody else are playing their how everybody else is betting and whatever else. You can get a really good idea just like you can get on a bowling lane. But sometimes you're going to throw a shot or you're going to put your chips in there and then there's a random card's going to come up and it's like, oh, well, that was definitely not good for me. And just like you make a move in bowling and it's like, oh, okay, well, that went Brooklyn, that should have worked, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But everybody should kind of know that things go weird sometimes.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to like I mean any of us who are watching this right now know if you're talking to somebody who doesn't really know much about bowling, isn't in the sport, whatever it may be, they'll ask a question like why don't professionals shoot 300 every time? And
Hmm.
it kind of comes back to this where like in league, in a perfect night, you have 36 shots, right? I guarantee there have been many more than how many 900s do we have? 45 or something? 46?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I guarantee there have been way more league nights than 46 where people threw 36, 99% amazing shots,
Hmm.
100%. But things just happen where it isn't always in the cards. That's why 900 is so difficult. That's why 300 for people can be so difficult. You can just have random things happen that kind of upend everything. Like even one of my pushes that I got flamed for, I think I got flamed on Facebook. That's generally where I get flamed for things. It was about like bowling is not about making perfect shots. Bowling is about giving yourself the most room for error. And I had a lot of people like, oh, that's garbage. What do you mean by that? You got to be able to throw it, hit a dime down lane, 10 shots in a row. All these pros do. It's like, no, not even close. I talked to Jimmy Callahan in the Bowl TV booth back at the World Series. And I asked him that. I wish I could have recorded it, but I can't record Bowl TV stuff. He said, I asked him, like, how many good shots does a pro make? Or how many great shots does a pro make a game? He's like, 8.
Hmm.
If Facebook commenters, 8 shots a game by the best in the world, like that is, and those are perfect shots. Like, and even those
Hmm.
8, probably all 8 are not striking. Like, there's a good
Yeah.
chance 7 of them do, 6 of them do. Maybe in a really bad game, 4 or 5 do. So, bowling's dumb.
Well, and that's the interesting thing is because they have Earl, the bowling robot, that can legitimately ace everything, every single shot, but the robot can't beat a person. They had Earl bowl Chris Barnes, and Chris Barnes won because the funny thing about bowling is if you throw better shots, you're going to create different transition than if you aim kind of more at an area. If the better shots you throw, the faster you're going to dry that specific lineup, and that could actually cause you problems being super super accurate. And so it's interesting because a lot of those things bug me because people I just don't think the right way about it. But at the same time, it's like, well, that gives me an advantage, because if you're going to be a stick in the mud about this, and you're going to be so that's why I kind of like the youth movement of stay behind the line, knock the pins down, because bowling used to be about the stylus, or, well, you don't throw it good enough. Well, I can't believe that guy shot 300. Look at how bad he throws the ball. But it's like, well, they all kind of were very good shots. Maybe you don't think he throws it pretty enough or whatever, but that's what everybody's hang up was, is it's like, well, you've got to be doing something extra difficult. And this 300 isn't it doesn't count because you were just kind of plopping it down the side, or you're just kind of walking it down second arrow. My 300, when I was playing fourth arrow, and had this super difficult line that I was trying to play, even though you really didn't need to. The kids now are just kind of like, backup ball, whatever. I'll throw it with two hands. I'll throw it with one hand. I'll chalk a mix up. The guys throwing at the Masters, they're kind of shamelessly getting to the point where it's like, well, the name of the game is stay behind the line, knock the sticks down. And that's what it is. And some people try to romanticize it and make it more about what it is than it actually is. And yeah, it seems kind of dumb to boil it down that far to what is a really complicated, convoluted game, to just stay behind the line and knock the sticks down. But that's where I think we kind of got to get, and that's what's going to make you the most money. So that's why I kind of like the two-handed stuff, and they found a better way to do it. And I think everybody's just kind of mad. And you can say, well, two-handed shouldn't be in. I know I'm rabbit trailing here, but
No, that's
everything's connected to everything else. But it's kind of it kind of does fit the thing, as sometimes you got to throw all the numbers out and just do what works.
Mm-hmm. That was one of the cool things about baseball, because I grew up playing baseball, and that was at the time in like the 2000s, 2010s. There were some guys with some wild batting stances, but really that's the only. Like, most sports are so heavily optimized now, especially as a youth, where everyone looks the same. Shooting a basketball, most people look pretty identical. Throwing a football, catching a football, pitching a baseball, a lot of it is so similar, where bowling, it is all across the board. If you look at the top 10 in points on the PBA, the best bowlers in the world, none of them throw it the same. None of them are remotely close to the same. And every other sport, it's a little bit different. But baseball, old batting stances used to be very, very different. And it was, well, as long as they, have a high batting average, as long as they hit home runs, whatever it may be, that's what matters. And bowling it's just being one of those different sports where, everyone can throw it so radically different and get a good result, that I think is hard for some people to swallow.
And somebody put it to me in a really interesting way one time, is that because I think a lot of people try to chase versatility and I want to be able to do as many different things as I can. And it was actually when I was starting getting somewhat competitive left-handed, but it would still frustrate me showing up and seeing the righties obviously have a better line, or when you bowl on something tougher and the righties are like, oh, we're just going to stay out of trouble until the lanes break down, or until they condition the lanes, open the pattern up, whatever else. Well, that didn't happen on the left side. You're just left with acing shots all day long. It was really frustrating. And another lefty kind of put it to me. It's like, well, being versatile normally doesn't win. Unique wins, because when it's your week, it's going to be your week. And he's like, I would rather win, 1 out of every 10 tournaments or something, than like cash in 10 and win none of them and feel good. Well, I competed this week, but you didn't win anything. And so the uniqueness, I think, is what's been great to see in bowling, especially because there for a while it was getting to where you could tell where somebody went to college in bowling just by watching them throw the ball. I think
Wichita State.
Wichita State or Nebraska, Nebraska's women's team, you could tell who went to Nebraska because they all threw it exactly the same. And I was kind of railing against, colleges turning people into robots there for a little while, which, you want to do what is the most consistent. And there are certain things, if you have a weird arm swing, it's like, well, that's probably not going to be that consistent. But there's a point to where you end up cramming yourself into a mold that you don't really fit into. And so that's why it's nice to see that people succeeding doing all kinds of wildly different things. Because it's, again, ultimately kind of that uniqueness that makes people stand out.
Yeah. That's like Cam Crow on tour, or even just outside of tour. There are some tournaments, if you give him a short pattern where he can play the twig, like you
Yeah.
just give him your money. I forget what, I think it might have been not Scorpion. One tournament, Cheetah. It was Cheetah he led at the World Series of Bowling, and he led by 1 billion. It's just one of those situations where he throws it 1 billion miles an hour with 1,000 revs. And if you give him that line, he is unique where that is his baby. He is going to whack it at any tournament you can think of where that is in play. I've seen him at a couple of other tournaments where that was in play, and it's hilariously insane how many wins he can get just when that portion of the lane is so in play. So yeah, the uniqueness is a good way to put it, actually. Not the consistency is great. You can get a Bill O'Neill where you cash 12 of 12 times and make $130,000 on tour. But yeah, if you want those tournament wins, yeah, the uniqueness usually does it.
Yeah, and then you'll have some people like a Walter Ray or a Norm Duke or a Liz Johnson, that can do everything, but those are a whole lot fewer and further between. But even then, Norm and they all kind of, like Liz Johnson especially, she throws it hard and straight and doesn't put a whole lot of res. Now she can play all over the lane, like she can do some really crazy stuff, but she's still kind of throwing it the same way. She's just so good at it. She's so good at her A game, that she can make it work. But again, it's still that uniqueness that she's just figured out how to get more out of than most people might be able to. And even though Norm Duke could do all these kinds of different things, again, if you gave him there's Rick Benoit's brother Bob was on tour for several years, and he shot his claim to fame as shooting 300 in his first time on TV. He was title match, and he shot 300 against Mark Roth. And he used to bowl on a league team with Norm Duke. And he said when they did travel league, or whenever they bowled big tournaments or whatever, it's like, yeah, if Norm had straight up five, everybody else was bowling for second.
Yep.
And so it's nice to be able to do other things, but at the same time, when you have your bread and butter, and going back to what I think I wanted to make a comment about, talking about bowling an area or whatever else, finding where it has the most miss room. That's what pro bowlers do. They find their spot. They find the most miss room. You don't want to have to count on acing every single shot. It might make you feel better, but the point is knocking pins down. And so, yeah, that's, you find where the most miss room's at, and that's where you play.
Yeah, Rod has a good point here. Luke's take on being unique is interesting. I'm great at playing the gutter, which seems like a lost art nowadays. I've been working hard at learning to play inside, but it's a struggle for me. And absolutely, it's versatility will help you make cuts more. If you are a one-trick pony, you are going to miss a lot of cuts. You're going to have times where you're locked out. Like if you can only play the gutter and the gutter is very much not in play, it's kind of a tough luck situation. Like, well, you might as well pack up and go home because you don't stand a chance. That's where being able, like, yeah, the Norm Duke, where this is A game, but B game is here, C game is playing there, like he can still do it all. That's what you really want to get to, where everybody has their bread and butter. Like every guy on tour, every bowler in the world has their spot on the lane. Like I think I told you guys during the event, team event at Ozarks, was like, yeah, this fading the pocket with this Spartan, that's my A game. If you give me that, look out. That's like my favorite thing to do. But you still got to be able to play different parts of the lane. You still got to be able to wheel it, play up the gutter, whatever it may be, just to be able to give yourself a chance.
Yeah, and I think where people get lost at is that generally they'll recommend, it's like, find what you're good at and get really good at that first. Don't try to, because I think some people, it's the jack of all trades, master of none type of deal. Norm and Liz, and they were so good at what they did well. Again, Liz can play deeper. She can play fourth arrow if she needs to. Now the ball's not ever going to get right of 13 when she's doing that. She can do it if she has to, but if you give her straight up five, she's taking straight up five as off, unless she can't do it, then she makes everything else work. But that's part of kind of that thing. And again, where people feel, but all this guy does is just, there's nothing to that. They'll be big fans of Norm Duke, but Norm won a lot of his titles just kind of plopping it down 5. Realistically, he was just really good at it. And people like, oh, well, that doesn't, this doesn't really count or whatever. It doesn't, you're not really doing anything. You're just kind of, plopping it down the side. And it's just wild to me that so many bowlers, I know we're getting wildly off topic here,
That was bound to
but
happen.
it is kind of interesting how many people kind of put themselves in a shoebox and, don't realize that it's, again, you're bowling for score. You're bowling for score. Whatever you have to do to get that score is whatever you got to do. And they'll be hypocritical about it. They'll go one way about saying, well, if you can't score, if you couldn't score on this, then you're really not that good. If you couldn't make the adjustments, you're not that good. But then if you just go to the well and do what you do best and just kind of take the lane out of play, plop it down 5. I've had another interesting thing that I'm kind of working on where it comes to, I think Doug Lickery or the bowlage guy or whatever put out something about a certain difficult pattern. And there's been times where I've been at tournaments. We had one at Red Square that I was at a year or two ago, and I think I averaged 185 or something, which I felt pretty good about for Red Square. But it's like the guy that led went 50 over, and it's kind of like, well, that would have been nice to do that. And I'm sitting here thinking, it's like, you know what? I probably would have scored better if I would have just taken the hand out of it and chucked it right at the 1-2 and then picked up easy spares. I could average 195 or 200 doing that. I've actually succeeded in tournaments doing that before. It looks cheap and it sounds stupid, but it's like, if you're going to put out some ridiculous pattern, then I'm going to knock pins down. And so it's really interesting the kind of places where bowlers will stick themselves in and just kind of make it harder than it needs to be.
Yeah, that's something I got to learn how to do on the dumb 1-to-1 patterns. Is my pride still gets in the way where like, I can make this work with a urethane, I can make it work with this ball, and then you proceed to shoot 150. You're like, well, if I just threw it at the head pin and hit the pocket a bunch with my plastic ball, I probably would have done better. And that's where you gotta, kind of know what to do in some of those situations, especially on a pattern like that.
Yeah, and that's kind of coming back around to the point, because looking at my double set, I go 180, 170. And literally, if I just chuck the ball down the middle, it's at least 190, 190, maybe 2020, which is not really getting much done, but I might have gotten through some brackets.
Yeah.
I did really well in brackets the first set, did not make a dime in brackets the second set. And, you want to try to do bowling the right way or whatever, but again, the right way is knocking pins down.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much. And that's the big one. Like, even when everyone was throwing the mix, like, people were upset, but hey, it was actually the right play for the high rev 2-handers. The 1-handers couldn't make it work. I know Stu mentioned on Beef and Barnes, he's like, I can't do that. And we were making fun of it. Like, we're not, thinking down on those guys, but we're making fun of it the whole time because it's just ridiculous. But when you have like in their case, a 550 rev rate, and you need to keep something on the right side of the head pin and keep the control, well, it works really well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the time that's what holds bowlers back from being significantly better, is because they're trying to do things the right way. And so that's something I'm gonna focus on kind of going forward. Is we need to break some of the old mindsets and think about things in different ways. And because it's just, you spend so much money, especially now if you're traveling to tournaments and spending all this money on bowling balls and whatever else, to just get somewhere and be stuck in, I have to do this with this ball on this surface, and if this isn't working, then I can't just do this, because that's cheating or whatever else. And it's like, well, you can have your pride or whatever, and if you want to tank yourself because you're following some unwritten gentleman's rules or whatever else, that's all fine and good. But it's sometimes, and especially at Ozarks, we could get back to talking.
This is the point
Talking
where we
about
go all
Ozark,
over the
but
place.
it's just thinking back across the sets, and it's like, what would I have done differently? What, because you're always going to think, oh gosh, I left this ball at home. I wish I'd have brought this ball. I wish I'd have known this. This, that, and the other. But I think a lot of times people are kind of held back, and they don't make the obvious choice or the obvious decision because they're still trying to execute bowling shots and whatever else. And it's kind of like, you know what? I would have rather just scored again. I would have liked to just shoot 690. That would have been awesome. That would have given me a couple hundred more bucks to spend on the vacation or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a common one I see. I don't remember where I heard it. I wish I remember it, but someone said you have to be selfish or you have to be cocky when you're bowling a tournament. In the case of, you have to assume, number one, that it was your ball. That was the problem. You can't assume, oh, it was me throwing bad shots over and over again, because if you do that 3, 4, 5 times in a row, you're halfway through a game and it probably was actually the ball, because it's kind of a chicken and egg situation where the ball might be wrong, which causes you to throw worse shots because you're a little bit tighter, or you're throwing it tighter, which makes the ball look bad. So the best way to go at it is just assume it's the ball that's the problem in tournament settings. Now, if you're practicing, it's a whole different story. You got to assume it's you and try to fix, of course, your physical game. That's the goal of practice. And it's even league as well, depending on how you're going at it. But in those intense high money situations, you got to assume, all right, this ball ain't it. I've missed 4 times in a row. I've 10 pinned 3 times. Like, maybe I didn't throw 100% perfect shots, but the ball's still not striking, and I shouldn't have to throw 100% perfect shots. So give me to something else.
That's what tends to get me, because I think throughout the weekend, something that I noticed is that you were a lot quicker to make adjustments and make ball changes and whatever else than I was. I kind of stuck with things too long. You kind of know when you're sticking through something. I'm like, well, I want to make sure that you don't want to make an adjustment off a bad shot, but like you just said, maybe you're throwing bad shots because you're starting to feel the pressure. You're starting to feel like you're getting squeezed a little bit and like you have to make better shots. It's like you always that's why you look for the most area that you can find, not necessarily so that you can throw it all over the world. That doesn't mean that you're not going to make good shots. It just means that you feel more comfortable. If you feel like you have to ace something to hit the pocket, you're going to tighten up and you're going to make worse shots. And that's going to make the ball reaction look even worse. Where if you feel like you've got the world, most of the time when you feel like you've got the world, you end up making really accurate shots because you're comfortable and you're, whatever else. But I think I got myself into bad situations and threw several bad shots because I'm like, I know I need to make a move or I know I need to make a change. But it's like, it's a 4-pin. I'm still really close. Oh, it was a flat 10. I'm still really close. I don't need to do something. But I also crossed with Matt Ogle, bowling the PTQ for the US Open when it was in Wichita or whatever. And he'd leave a 4-pin and then move an arrow left. Or he'd have a 6-bagger, leave a 4-pin, and then go change balls. And I'm just, gobsmacked because I'm like, bro, you just had a 6-bagger and you left a 4-pin, and now you're gonna move an arrow left. You're gonna move 5 left with your feet, or you're gonna change balls. It's like, slow down here a little bit. But then he'd put another 6-bagger behind that 4-pin instead of going 4-pin, 10-pin, drive by 9, whatever else like I would do. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We have a super chat from Johnny. Johnny, thank you so much for the $5 super chat, man. Hey guys, for someone that bowls 1 night a week, but when you go and bowl 6 to 9 games in a tournament, what is the best way to train yourself? And I'm guessing you mean physically, like be ready to throw that many games. And honestly, practice is going to be the best way, is getting a lot of practice time in with a lot of games. Now, it gets a little bit tough when you're paying by the game, but if you're paying by the hour, the goal almost is to kind of like physically train yourself, like working on something, but get a lot of games in, bowl a little bit quicker, just get yourself a little more almost conditioned in a certain way, because it's hard to condition yourself for bowling. It's kind of like swimming, where it's very hard to condition yourself to be a swimmer unless you're in the water.
Unless you're swimming. Yeah. One thing that I have done before is if you've got like an old couch or an old chair or something like that, you can take kind of like bowling approaches. Some of it is just toughening your hand up a little bit. Now, again, you don't want to. You see some of these people with these big calluses and whatever else, and so toughening your hand up doesn't mean that your thumb needs to be twice, your bowling thumb needs to be twice the size of the other thumb. It just means that when people that work with their hands will understand this. You don't necessarily have to get these big thick calluses, but you do have to condition your hands to be able to accept the repetitiveness. And so that's something I recommend is people working on release things or whatever else. Just, take a couple steps and throw the ball into the couch, and take a couple steps and throw the ball into the couch, and just keep doing that and doing that. And you can build up resistance without actually having to bowl. And even if you're not at full speed, again, bowling is not a thing where you can go out and you can go jogging or you can go lifting and whatever else, because you're just going to use certain muscles and tire yourself out in a different way when you're actually bowling versus doing anything else. But yeah, I think a way to at least kind of condition your hand is to just get the ball off your hand, get the ball off your hand, get the ball off your hand, because there is a little bit of friction. No matter how good the ball fits, there's always going to be a little bit of friction, and your hands are going to be tender. I've had that when I've switched hands before. When I go to the new hand, it's like, well, I haven't bowled with this hand in a while, and I haven't bowled lefty in almost a year now, and I'm like, the fingers are going to be a little tender when we start doing it again, so I'm not going to have quite the longevity there. But yeah, that's find a late night special and don't push it too far. Like if you're only used to bowling 3 games, maybe try 5 or 6, and then if you start to feel, quit while you're ahead, basically, because everybody's had times where they bowled until they've torn a blister open, and then that's that causes a problem there. So push it reasonably, but kind of, you got to, it's like anything else, you got to kind of work your way into it. And unfortunately, bowling costs what bowling costs, but most places do have a special where you can, like you say, pay this much, bowl for an hour, and if you're bowling by yourself, you can normally rifle through it pretty quick, and you might throw just first shots only. Even if you leave a 10 pin or a 4 pin, just keep throwing your first shot over and over again, instead of taking the shot at the spare, because it's going to be that should help out a little bit anyway.
Yeah, and if you do this and your hand is like severely screwed up, where like you're getting blisters in a lot of spots and your thumb has a lot of problems, your fit might be a problem. So make sure to keep that in mind as well, is that everyone will rip if you bowl enough games. Like Luke said, there's always friction on your hand, but if it happens super quickly or it's happening in multiple spots, there might be a fitting issue. That is generally another reason of concern. If you bowl that many games and you're like, man, I've got 3 blisters on my middle finger, 2 on my ring, it might be a fit issue as well. So make sure to check that out. Yeah, and then he said, and a $2 super chat, I had that issue in doubles at the Ozarks. Yeah, if you're not used to those 6 games, and it can go kind of quick, so you got to be in bowling shape to a certain degree as well when you're going out and getting ready for some of these tournaments, because 3 nights a league, or 1 night a league where you're bowling 3 games in 2.5 hours, doesn't really get you conditioned for 6 games in 3 hours.
And that's what I gotta say for anybody that says that bowling's not a physical sport. I want to take you out and film a ball review. If you're throwing a shot every 30 seconds or basically as fast as the ball gets back through the return, and you do that for an hour and a half, you'll be feeling it.
How many games do you bowl in a review?
Typically 3 to 5.
Okay. So yeah, you don't want to get, otherwise the lanes get pretty beat up after 6+ games, probably.
That's the problem, because you want to throw enough shots to, like everything, a ball needs to break in. It needs to get a track in it. And they used to say it used to be one of those things, because when balls didn't flare, you would see from the wood lanes, you'd see the little scratch marks throughout somebody's track. And if somebody had a track less than the width of a dime, that was a pretty consistent bowler. They weren't just doing all kinds of different things with it. But you got to bowl long enough to when you have that hard factory surface, or anytime you resurface a ball, you've got to throw it for a game or 2 to kind of break it in a little bit and get it back going. So I want to throw enough games to break the ball in, But I don't want to throw so many games that all of a sudden the third ball that I film is, it's like, well, we're on significant transition now instead of the fresh shot that we had a couple hours ago. So there is a little bit of touch and go, but yeah, generally it's about three-ish games, and 3 games of it is a little bit different too, because we're throwing a first shot and then re-racking and throwing a first shot. And so, you know, one game ends up being 24 shots basically, um, as the scoreboard tracks anyway. So
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, that fits pretty well. I think, God, what did I find when I was doing my back to life review? I was able to get like, I forget the numbers. 3 games got me like 7 minutes of coverage if I was cutting between shots all the time and just kind of shoving them all together.
every shot takes 6 or 7 seconds.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I've got I've got some of this stuff down to a science.
Oh yeah, that's me on the short form stuff. Is I know how long a shot can take for me.
Yeah.
9 seconds if you want to show your reaction to it. It's a fun one. I have a bone 8 pin I got last night on camera where I can leave a nice reaction. So I'll have that one's about a 9 or 10 second clip.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Anyone else hopping in chat? So we pretty much talked a lot about the Ozarks, how it all went. If you guys have questions about that or other questions you guys have while we have Luke here, like he mentioned, he's got a lot of ball reviews that are coming up very soon. I do want to hit on quick. You had a video come out what day is today? Wednesday, 3 days ago, about some changes that you are making or making back to a certain degree with your channel. So what you want to give like a quick TLDR of what that was and what people can expect on your stuff going forward while I ban somebody on Twitch who's trying to sell views?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting with making bowling content, because you want to make stuff that people want to watch, but also you spend a lot of time doing it, and so you want to make things you want to get the clicks and the views and whatever. And I feel like I've been doing this for is year 11 or 12 or something like that. I've been doing it long enough that I kind of feel like I can do what I want to do, even if it's may not necessarily be so good from the clicks and views perspective. And especially whenever you challenge, that whenever you challenge, stick in the mud ideas when it comes to bowling stuff, people kind of push back. And so you got to kind of jump through some hoops. And I kind of tried to walk that line of, I want to tell people what's really going on, but I don't want to present it in a way that's going to challenge them too much, or maybe be blunt or brash or whatever else. Because if you're teaching somebody something, you want them to be able to receive it. And if you're a jerk about it, then they're not going to listen to you. And so I've tried to walk this line of telling the truth and giving people information and whatever else, but also do it in kind of a really nice way that kind of gently tiptoed around some things that I probably should have been more blunt on. It's just like the layout photo and the videos that confuses more people than it helps, because where the fingers go is not a layout. The numbers is a layout. You've got a different positive access point than I do. Even I have a different positive access point than I used to. Last time I was a righty, my PAP was 5 3/8 over and 3/4 up. Now it's 4 1/2 over and a half up. And so the same layout that I used to use before now looks really weird. And so I'll put it on there like, that doesn't really seem right, but I've got a lower track now than I used to, because I throw it a little bit differently and I don't rip the cover off of it like I used to. And so, but people want to see the layout photo. And I put it in the videos just so that I don't have to answer all the comments answer all the questions in the comment section, or, I don't understand the numbers. Can I just see the picture? It's like, the picture is not a layout, because you have a different positive access point. If you look at, if whatever layout I have is just pin above the bridge and kicking the CG out, that's a kind of normal place for people. If you just say, okay, well, I want to drill the fingers there on my ball and it's going to react the same way as it does for you, it's like, no, that's probably not a thing, because your access point's probably different. But it's one of those things that we do just because it's like I don't want to fight people on it. But now I kind of want to fight people on
Well,
it.
you hopped into
Basically.
my comments the other day. I had a video go out on
Yeah.
short forms where I had two balls. I had a Black Widow tour and an effect tour. The pins and the mass biases were in virtually the same spot, and I drew two different positive access points on them. And I
Yeah.
showcased, hey, these balls are going to roll way different because of where these pin to pap distances are so different now. The vowels are so different. The drilling angles ended up accidentally being the same based on the positive access points I picked. But
Mhm.
there were still people fighting in the comments at me about how that wasn't, how like that doesn't matter, or how positive access point does this, that, or what positive access point isn't a thing or wasn't a thing before the 2000s, which was or no, just in the past, he said, which was
Yeah.
wild. Yeah, that is a point in bowling. I don't know how you out educate people on, or like what the right approach is. It's kind of like you're like, here are all the facts. This is what's true. And they're like, no, it's not. What do you mean?
Yeah.
That's a lie. It's like, what
Yeah.
else can you do?
And that's kind of frustrated me. And I've felt like it's like, well, I have to kind of put on the kid gloves with people so that I can, because if you make the best video ever, or you write the best book or whatever else, and people don't watch it, if you make the best video ever and people don't watch it, that's why people kind of lean into clickbait, because it's kind of like, well, I want people to click on the video. If I don't put an attractive enough thumbnail up there, they're not going to click on this really awesome video. And so that's a hoop that I think that we jump through. Like, I was messing with AI on some of my thumbnails here recently, and I'm not going to do that anymore because it looks tacky. And some of them looked really cool, though. A couple of them looked great, and a couple of them like, yeah, I phoned this one, and this looked kind of bad.
Yeah, and I also
Um,
noticed I had a picture I posted in my Discord maybe 2 weeks ago. There were four people. You weren't one of them, but it was for the heckler taunt video, their heckler taunt videos. They all
uh,
had the same exact thumbnail colors and everything, just a different person on it.
yeah,
Um,
mhm,
Ironically, a couple of them I remember having very long posts months ago of like, AI should not be used on thumbnails, and I despise anybody who does it.
yeah,
Um,
mhm.
it's yeah, those were kind of funny. And yours were like more, you used something where it was more unique, where those guys were all, I don't know what thumbnail creator it was. It's probably the one that's hitting me up in my business account every day asking me to partner with them.
Yeah, and that's I try to use it for like, okay, I want the thumbnail to look like this. So I already have, it's not like I have no idea what I'm going to do here. Just make me something that's going to look good for YouTube. I still design them and was very specific with Chat GPT to try to, okay, I want this here, and I want the ball to look like this, and I want this here, and I want the words here, and I want this here, and I want put this expression on my face, or whatever else. And so I was still designing the thumbnails. It just, I'm not the greatest photo editor in the world. And that's the one thing we talked about this that really sucks sometimes is you get done with the video and it's like, oh my God, I got to spend 30 minutes making a thumbnail now. And then sometimes the colors just don't work right, or the things that you want to put in it. It's like, well, I want to get all this on here, but then it's not legible. And then you make it legible. And then the stuff's, it just, sometimes they don't work out, and you sit there fighting it for 30, 45 minutes. And it's like, bro, this is like, I finally got done with the video. I just want to upload the video and post it. And I'm dicking around with this thumbnail, and it's pissing me off. Where if I can just tell ChatGPT, do this, it spits it out in 10 seconds. And I'm like, yes, we're okay. We'll adjust this or whatever else. But it's like a 5-minute process. But it just, there's something about the creative process. And that's basically what the deal is. I kind of, I'm like, I'm just going to tell it the way that it is. And if that means I'm on the downhill side of things anyway, I don't want to do this forever. And I'd rather just tell the few people that still watch just the unfiltered truth. And that doesn't mean that you have to go out of your way to be a jerk about it, or be really hard nosed and black and white. I can still, um, it's just, I'm going to take things a little bit more head on. And I think for a while too, I wasn't necessarily that confident either in, it's like, well, how do I do this? And ultimately I want to get the point across. I want to get the information across. And so I was trying to do this and that. And it's kind of like one of those movies where you watch where somebody's doing the wrong things, or doing all the wrong things for the right reasons. I don't, have you seen Hoppers?
Yeah.
it's kind of like Mabel going through just doing all the wrong things for the right reasons and thinking she was doing all these things right and whatever. And that's been me with YouTube. Like I've got these good intentions and I want to, I want to save I want to save bowlers and save bowling and whatever else, but instead of just saying no, this is what we got to do, and sorry if it ruffles feathers, or sorry if I've got to just agree to disagree with somebody, or just flat out tell someone like, no, sorry, you're wrong, this is what it is, and then not be bothered by it later, or not figure out how I want to tell them off. Just say, no, you're just not right, and if that means that you don't watch my videos anymore, that's kind of your loss. So that's kind of the way that I'm going to go with things. But again, it's like, oh, so you're gonna be even more honest. Like, well, no, I've been honest. It's just you kind of sculpt things and present things a little bit differently, and that's why I talk so much, and that's because I'm constantly thinking about what's a more effective way to say this, what's a better way to say this, what's a more neutral way to say this, how can I get this across the best way possible. And at some certain point, you can't save everybody, and the people that are there, your main viewers, the people that already understand this stuff and get this stuff, like, if I don't understand a whole lot about cameras, but I was going to go watch a new, I've been watching videos on cameras to see if, because I'm going to have my camcorder's like 8 or 9 years old at this point. It's like, I'm going to have to buy a new camera at some point. And they're talking all these technical terms and whatever else, but instead of saying, well, I don't understand what shutter speed is, or I don't understand what aperture or bit rate or whatever, so I'd stop and I'd Google it, and I was like, okay, shutter speed means this. It's like, okay, I got that now. Or I can go watch another video about the terminology or explaining how to watch this video, because there's only so far they can dumb it down, there's only so far they can peel it back. Like, sometimes things are just technical, and bowling is technical, and it's like, there's all kinds of tutorials out there. There's all kinds of informational videos out there. And at some point, you've got to educate yourself to a certain degree. I can't go out of my way to explain everything about bowling and all these different concepts and how layouts work and how covers work and how cores work and whatever in every single video. At some point, I have to, do right by my viewers who already understand all that stuff, and just, instead of a 20-25 minute video, it's like I can say the same thing in like 8 or 9 minutes if I'm just direct with it. And that's another thing that I like about the stuff that you do, is that you're quite a bit more direct, and you're like, this is just what this is. And so you say a lot more in a lot fewer words than I tend to. And I'm trying to, and I think if you're not beating around the bush, you're not trying to make everything happen, be everything for everybody, then you can ultimately get a whole lot more done. So
yeah, Mike, we'll get to your super chat in just a second, but off of that, that's where having a lot of creators helps in those instances. Like, I know cameras and tech have so many different people doing reviews and being creators, where if you're like, I need to know more about shutter speed, YouTube video, here's 100 videos on learning more about shutter speed in 3 minutes. And then you can go back to the old video. Where bowling, we just don't have enough creators that have done that a lot. And there's a lot of just bad information out there that makes it hard as well. So we feel like, I feel like that as well, where like, I have to hit everything is what I feel like I'm mentioning this term, I have to make a video on short form at some point about this or about this. Like, I mentioned axis rotation, so I have a video coming soon about axis rotation, and because you feel like you have to cover everything, because we just don't have the amount of people to actually cover those other things. So you got to kind of hit every single experience level. You feel like you have to hit every single experience level, instead of there being a creator who's like, I am the beginner friendly creator for bowling. I am the beginner educator. I am the advanced educator. It just doesn't really exist. Want to hit you, Mike, quick for a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate it. You're bowling a multi-day tournament. Modified house shot is all they'll say. Well, that's the most fun word in bowling, because that could mean anything. You're bringing an Alpha Crux, a Bionic, a Venom Hysteria, a Revenge Solid, and a Spare Ball. Is that diverse enough, since I can't find an exact pattern? Yeah, I mean, honestly, based on knowing nothing about the pattern, that gives you a little bit of everything. You've got strong, you've got weak, you got the in between. Yeah, modified house shot is my least favorite term in bowling.
Well, and that's it. Packy used to ask me questions when he was first getting started in the YouTube thing, and And so I'd say, well, sometimes you can't do everything. Like somebody'd say, hey, can you make a video about how to line up on sport shots? And he thought about it for a second. He was like, well, yeah, it's a good thing that there's only like 1,000 different kinds of sport shots. And I said, yeah, exactly. That's one of those things that you got to think about. And yeah, modified house shot doesn't really give you a whole lot of information. I typically tend to lean into stuff I throw most often. You want to take some stuff on the fringes, just like a just in case strong ball and a just in case weak ball. But modified house shot typically means it's just a little bit more difficult, or if it's maybe you have a house shot, maybe they're just adding more volume because maybe you normally bowl league on this pattern, but if you're going to bowl 6 games on it, it you know you might want it to hold up more. So sometimes it can mean more oil, sometimes it can mean a little less forgiving, it can mean several different things, it can mean all of the above too. So just take Abralon pads too.
Yeah, yeah, but I like to bring more balls than less, and just really emphasize the practice for that, for the 10 minutes of practice you get just to kind of figure out what's going on. Because yeah, sometimes they add more 2-to-2 load, so it makes it a little flatter, or it makes they add a little more volume on the outside of the pattern. Sometimes it's more volume in general. Sometimes it's just not even a house shot, and they just said we picked a Kegel pattern instead, and it ends up being 4-to-1. I've been there before. It's like modified house, and you look at it like, wait a minute, this is just like not highway to hell. This is just one of those harder Kegel patterns. They're like, oh yeah, it's modified, but everything's basically a modified house shot at the end of the day.
Yeah. Realistically, but that I do have, and that's kind of going back to I had another point that I wanted to make about what we were just talking about. But just wait until you make the same video like 4 or 5 times. Like I'm working on another video. Somebody asked me again about burning up versus not hooking, which is Ozarks.
Yes.
It's like, is this ball burning up or is it not hooking? I can't really tell. I've made several videos about it, but you do so many videos and they kind of get lost, and then you have new viewers. And even if you kind of look that up, older videos are kind of hard to find even when you're searching for them. And so there's several videos that I've done that I've made several times that I just keep kind of remaking them and figuring out better ways to explain things or whatever else. But yeah, that's another thing is it's like, well, I have videos for these and I could send you to these videos, but they're 4 or 5 years old at this point, and they're using older outdated balls that you just started bowling a couple years ago and you don't know what a halo is. Or saying halo doesn't really mean anything to you. But yeah, that's which of course it you're making the same video, but it's a fresh new video that's more content.
And there's a lot of new people that jump into your channel too. Even if the numbers don't seem like they change, there's like as much as you expect. Like none of us bowlers are jumping from 10,000 to 100,000 subs in the span of 3 months, but there's a lot of new people that hop in. There's probably a lot of people watching this live right now who are brand new in the bowling space, maybe have been following one of us or both of us for only a month or so now. So yeah, evergreen content is kind of going away a little bit on YouTube. It seems like I've already had to make a couple videos multiple times, layout videos. I've now just set a reminder for myself every 6 months to make new layout videos because it's always relevant and the old ones always kind of vanish, especially like for me, which I do so much on short form that those videos do not, like after 2 months, those videos don't see the light of day again. Like it's rare to get a comment or a like on old videos anymore. It's weird when it happens. Like I know for me, it's always funny. I'll have a video like at the beginning of the season, I'll do a top 5 league balls from each company just to prep people for league season in case they missed any new releases, especially with Bowl Expo when there's so many things that get dropped. And I had a motive one and they were like, wait, why is the Apex Jackal not on here? It's like, well, that came out in January of 26. This video has a date of September of 25. Sorry, man.
Yeah, there's always that too, and those would frustrate me, and I try to be nice to people. But at the same time, it's like it's like when movies get remade or something like that, or when a book gets made into a movie, and they want to like it really. The Wheel of Time that Amazon did really pissed me off. because they're like, well, we want to reach a different audience, or we want to reach a new audience or something like that. And it's like, okay, so just screw all of us that have, or like when Star Wars does something new and people hate it, but you're never going to make a Star Wars fan happy. But at the same time, you have these new directors come in and say, well, I want to go a different direction or reach a new audience and whatever else. It's like, well, you don't have to screw the existing audience that's been here for however long. And there's been a lot of things that I've done before. It's like, yeah, I want to try to branch out. I want to, bring more bowlers on. I want to throw different companies, and because everybody would request that. And then you figure out it doesn't really work like that, or then you change a format up. And it's like, well, people started watching you because of this. And so then it's like, oh, screw you. I want more views, or I want more clicks, or whatever else. And so, yeah, I think that is a good thing to kind of know where you're at, and kind of stick out there and do what you can for the people you can do it for. And yeah,
pretty much good. This is a fun question. Oh boy. House hack bowling, first of all, ask no sanded axe from someone one previously. No, they must have forgotten that one in the arsenal. But what's the most amount of bowling balls you see someone take to or you've seen someone take to a house shot tournament? We had a couple of people say 6 and 6 plus a spare ball. Way more. Oh, so many more.
12, 15.
Yeah.
The ones that they bring into the center do not necessarily reflect all the balls that they brought with them.
Yes.
They might have half of them out in the car.
A lot of people leave their balls in the car a lot. So no, personally, I've brought 11 to a house shot tournament, and I will bring more balls to a house shot tournament compared to a sport shot tournament. Because number one, if a place says we're putting out the house shot, I've seen house shots in my area be 39 feet, 23 mils. I've seen a house shot 45 feet, 36 mils. That one was crazy. They wanted to basically eliminate anybody from playing inside. So they were like, we're putting a flood of 15-1 in the middle of the building. And then you have to play up second arrow or further right, or else your ball's not wiggling, was their goal.
Yeah. The house shot, and especially sport shots, are tougher conditions just in general. It's kind of funny. You still use the terminology that everybody understands, even if it's not the correct terminology, like a ball hooking. It's like, well, when a ball moves, it's responding. It's not actually hooking, but I digress.
Oh, all right, Rick Benoit.
But yeah, house shot is, it can describe a lot of different things, but typically they devolve. They don't evolve. Like tougher conditions usually get softer. If you break them down right, they open up. House shots just get harder. They just get more cliffed, or they get super bone dry, or whatever else. And house shot can mean all kinds of different things. Like Greater Tulsa Open is interesting because they just use, they're basically house shots down there, but the team pattern's 48 feet long. It just, you want to talk about a center it makes sunshine look like a picnic.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it just starts out bad and gets even worse, and then it gets really cliffy. And so yeah, sometimes you need to go through, number one, you need to have enough options to begin with to feel, okay, is this a lot of volume? Is it dry? Where am I going to be playing? So you want to have options to begin with, but then you're normally going to progress through several different balls throughout the course of however long the tournament is or whatever. But yeah, I've seen TLDR indeed, but yeah, 12 balls, 15 balls.
Yeah, and the big thing with house shots too, I've noticed, is if you're at a house shot tournament, you at least you feel like going in, I got to average 230, because scores are going to be high if they say it's a house shot. So I always bring more balls for those situations, because then it's about getting your ball to go through the pins the right way. And it's not really about like where you line up. It's not really the minute changes. It can just be straight up, I need a different ball that's going to match up for the building to give me the most room for error and will still go through the pins. So I'm always one who's like, yeah, if I bowl a house shot tournament, I'm honestly more scared. I don't bowl many of them up here in Minnesota. Like, we don't have almost any house shot tournaments, but when we do, it's always terrifying because, well, I got to bring a couple extra bowling balls in that middle tier, just hoping something gets through the pins better in case I'm leaving a 10-pin, 4-pin machine.
Yeah, and that's another interesting thing is, on house shots too, is that I'm going to make another video about that. About, okay, well, I brought 6 balls. They all look good in practice. What do I throw? It's like, well, it could be a different answer every single time, depending on if you're moving, who you're bowling with, how fast you think the lanes are going to transition, if you want them to stay like they are, if you want them to transition a little bit, kind of all, all different kinds of things there. But yeah, that makes it even trickier when you bring a lot of balls, and that's like, well, they all look good. So that's a good point about, it's like, well, you got to make sure that they get through the pins the right way, because most of them are probably going to look pretty good. They're probably going to be easy to hit the pocket, but hitting the pocket and knocking the pins down are not mutually exclusive.
That's my big push with urethane on house shots for some guys. It is, yeah,
Mhm.
you're hitting the pocket more, but is your carry better? And yeah, JR, exactly. Sometimes the 12-1 house shots are harder than the 5-1 patterns. Exactly. Especially keeping up with, depending on whatever that scoring pace could be.
Yeah, I used
Absolutely.
to. There was I don't know if you remember or not. There was a thing called lane shield back in the day that they used. It was a thin laminate sheet that they would actually put on top of old wood lanes when they were down to their last resurfacing cut. And so they would extend the life. So if you got down to your last resurfacing cut, then you would have to put new wood lanes in, obviously expensive. Lane Shield was designed to help you get another 3-4 years. So they said 7 to begin with. It turned out being like 3, to get more life out of the lanes before you had to replace them, or before people were starting to go to synthetics too. But Lane Shield was very soft, very high friction, and they got bad fast. They got really tracked out really fast, and so they would start the center here that I bowled on that had it. They would start putting out like super heavy volume, and people weren't able to get the ball to hook, and so the first game or so they would really chalk stuff up. But I'm sitting there going, it's like, yeah, this always turns into a freaking mess, because you chalk balls up, and then by getting to game 3, you have a 160 look out there. And so I would always start with something that didn't hook quite enough, and kind of just deal with the corners, and then just let the shot come to me. So most people would go like 240, 20, 160. I was going like 220, 230, 240, and being ahead of the curve at the end of the night. And so that's another kind of weird thing to think of when it comes to selecting balls for house shots and deciding what to throw, and whatever else.
JR has a fun comment. Those 3 to 4 years have turned into 15 plus around here.
Yeah, right.
Oof.
That's normally how it happens.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, let's take a quick transition to Jaybird, who has a question about PBA stuff. What are y'all thoughts on EJ winning the world championship and Wilkins making his crazy run on the ladder? Were you able to watch on Sunday?
No, I didn't. What was I doing on Sunday? I was not watching bowling. I didn't get to watch bowling. I was filming
Oh, okay.
bowling league and filming stuff last night too, so I didn't get to see Jilly win either. But I mean, Zach lives in Kansas City, is right in the area of he bowls on a couple of our tournament groups, and he was on Bowling with the FEF the other day, and he's one of those guys that you knew just by watching him, it's like he's going to win some stuff, and he's going to do great, and he has done great, and that's just one of those bowling things. He's had a couple of kind of heartbreakers here, because he just couldn't get one lane when he was bowling against Alex Horton in I can't remember, that was one of the majors, the TOC.
Yeah.
The TOC, and he just could not get one lane figured out. You lead the thing, and then all of a sudden you get on the TV pair, and one lane, just the ball will not go through the pins the right way, or you just can't get the one lane figured out. And that's what we were talking about earlier. It's like, it's kind of hard when you can't put a double together, because you got different things going on different lanes. And then, he climbs the entire ladder, then makes a great shot, just stone 4-9, but it kind of happens. It's one of those things.
Shots.
You got to keep putting yourself there, and it's gonna sting. It's gonna sting. I'm sure both of them hurt, because realistically, he could have won 2 majors this year, and in addition to the other 2 titles he won, and he was just that close. And but EJ's EJ, and that seems to happen for the more established players, the vets that have been there for a while. You see those guys squeak out those really close ones for really no reason you can put your finger on, or describe, or whatever else. It's just they did enough leading up to that to be able to benefit. Because if you don't put yourself in that spot, if he didn't bowl at least well enough to that Zach had to mark, then it's a totally different story. But it's kind of weird, and Zach will have more opportunities. Um, and yeah, it's one of those really weird things where you got to just keep putting yourself there and putting yourself. It's one of those, you miss all the shots you don't take. Well, you miss a lot of the shots that you do take too, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, it's kind of regret it. And I like EJ. I was rooting for Zach because I know him,
Yep.
and but yeah, I mean, he had a good year too. He'll be the first one to that's one of those things I tell people a lot. Um, that sometimes if I go and bowl, you go bowl league set and you start off with 510 or 520 after two, and then you shoot 180 the last game. But it's like, if you told me that I was going to walk in here and shoot 700, if it's 250, 250, 200, or it's 235, 235, 235, if you told me I was going to walk in here and shoot 700 tonight, I'll take that. It's just like as weird as things were at Ozarks. If you told me I was going to walk in here and shoot 690 in singles, I don't even care how that happens. I don't care about, it's regrettable that I couldn't do anything for you in doubles, but it would have taken the last game went bad. And so even if I'd have shot 650, I don't think we'd have cashed or anything, but that notwithstanding, it's kind of one of those things that if you told Zach that he was going to win 2 titles this year and get second in 2 majors, it's like, bro, I'm taking that. It
Absolutely.
stings the way that it happened, but it's like, I'm taking that all day. And so and he's got the kind of mental game that it's like, yeah, it hurts you so close, but it's like, bro, we had a good year.
Yeah, I think that's one of my biggest things with bowling compared to other sports. Like, I'm a fan of other sports. I've played a lot of other sports. Bowling focuses so hard on taking first place in a field of 100 to 200 people, which is
Yeah,
so difficult to
drives me
do.
nuts.
Yeah, and especially in the step ladder. Like, I'm not anti step ladder, but I am leaning closer that way because there's just so many little tiny things that can happen in a one game step ladder match. Like there with Zach, a very unfortunate thing in a very unfortunate situation where he just needed a mark and he couldn't. He throws that shot 9 other times. He probably leaves a 4, a 9, or strikes in all 9 of them.
Yeah.
We just put so much of an emphasis on that singular game that they're winning or losing. Like I've had guys telling me that EJ doesn't deserve player of the year this year. And it's crazy because he has so many more points. He's cashed in way more tournaments. And I focus on that cash number so much and like TV shows that you make because the qualifying is really where everything kind of slowly adds to like who is the best player that week.
Yeah.
Like in other sports, we run into it too. Like I see that in football all the time with the one game match, like a one game basically round. You can have some weird, tiny little quirky things happen that make or break it for somebody. You have a little
Yeah.
pass interference call in the fourth, and that flips the entire game around where some team now has a chance to win a Super Bowl where they probably wouldn't have 9 out of 10 times that they replay that match. So
Yeah.
we focus so hard on it, but in reality, like Zach is the number 3 player right now in terms of points and earnings and everything. So yeah, that's a win. It's unfortunate. EJ has run into that a couple times this year already, and he's been there so many more times too. So he's bound to run into it with the pocket 10 pin. We saw at the Masters, the changing of locations, but you just got to keep putting yourself in that spot and you're good to go.
Yeah, and that's another thing too that's kind of wild with, especially being at Thunder Bowl or something, bowling in a completely different part of the bowling alley, and then coming over or bowling qualifying one place and match play somewhere else, and then the TV finals somewhere else a month later or whatever else.
Different state this time.
Yeah, yeah, and so it's just kind of wild, but it's the same kind of theoretically the same situation for everybody. But yeah, that's why it's just so crazy that people can get such, hard and fast ideas about bowling when it's just not a hard and fast sport at all. And then you add in the crazy scoring, um, where, you can have 6 strikes in 2 different games and you can shoot 240 in one of them and 2-0 in the other one, because if you have the front 6 and then spare out, that's 240, 230 or 240 or something. Or if you go strike, spare, strike, spare, strike, spare, you're 200.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, you can have the same number of strikes as somebody else in the game and end up with a completely different score. And it's just kind of wild that the I haven't shot 800 lefty, and I don't think it's ever going to happen. But the best shot I had at it, we got back from nationals, and so I was just used to hitting that for a couple of BJ squads and whatever else. And so I get back to a house shot, and I feel like I have the world. I go 279, 289. And then because I'm on the left, I mean, the shot it settles in a little bit, but it doesn't necessarily change. And then that last game, I went from striking, I didn't change anything. I didn't move. I didn't change balls. I was throwing it, I think, just as good, but the little bit of transition, it just got it off enough to where the ball just stopped getting through the pins the same way. And so it was wrap 7, and then it was drive by 8, and then it was a light mixer 10 pin, and then it was a 6 pin, and then it was whatever else. And so I ended up I had a clean 190 the last game for 760 or whatever. I'm like, bro, if I just carry like I was carrying the first 2 games, I'm shooting like 840. Mm-hmm. And so it's one of those things where it's like, well, you had, and people say, well, you had to have done something different, or maybe you should have done this, or you should have changed whatever. And it's like, I was throwing it good. The ball was still hitting the pocket. The pins were just not getting down. Sometimes that's the way that it happens.
Yep.
So yeah, you gotta try to do as much as you can do, but you got to take it with a grain of salt. Kind of at the same time, it doesn't make it any easier, but I think it does kind of make it a little bit easier. Instead of saying I could have beat myself up about whatever, this, that, or the other, or, but sometimes it's like, I don't know. It just ate my lunch, and I'm fine.
Yep.
Some people stress out about stuff like that, and they'll go, bowlers, I think, can be too hard on themselves. And so they'll go, oh my gosh, well, I shot 170 the last game. I need to go practice, or I need to do this, or I need to fix this. And it's like, sometimes you just need to leave it alone, because sometimes people cause themselves bigger problems by trying to be like too accountable and creating issues that didn't really happen. It's like, no, I threw it good that game. I know I threw it good. I just ran into some transition. I had some funky splits and, whatever.
Yeah. I'll hit this quick, and then we'll go to Grumpa's couple super chats. But one of the best things I did personally for my mental game is care less about the result and care more about how I threw it. Still trying to learn, of course, like where certain things play, what decisions I should make in certain situations. But once I got over the not caring about the result as much, that helped so much more. But we'll hit Grumpa's super chat quick. Grumpa, thank you for the 2 $5 super chats, man. Really appreciate it. How might a pin down layout help my wife? She's 10 to 12 miles an hour, 200 revs. I thought they were for the weight hole era. I'll let you tackle that one first.
Yeah, I don't think it was necessarily for the weight hole era. And it's kind of funny that people used to think that pin down made the ball roll earlier and smoother. I'm not sure where that ever came from. But it's just, pin down basically raises the RG, which gets the ball to go a little bit longer, or it delays the revving a little bit. And then it also lowers the differential, which reduces the flare. And so if you have the tighter the oil lines are on the ball, the more a ball flares, the further apart those oil lines are going to be. So the more fresh covers hitting the ball on every rotation. And so drilling a ball pin down basically tames it down a little bit. And so if she's having trouble with stuff being too dynamic or hooking a little bit too much or whatever, just going pin down can help the ball get down the lane a little bit easier and be a little smoother on the back end. May or may not necessarily be something she needs to do. I know that typically when you used to drill a ball pin down, people would put a weight hole in there to kind of increase the flare, or most of the time they ended up kicking the CG out. And so you would have to put a weight hole in it to get everything to weigh out correctly. Because if you went pin up, most of the time the CG would be kind of close to your palm somewhere. And so that would drill most of the top weight out. And there was some weird rules and things, but before I blather too much about that, yeah, it could just help give her a little more controllable ball reaction.
Yeah, perfect. And then Mr. Phil just hopped in with a $20 super chat. Hey, Zach and Luke, I bowl 3 leagues a week, and I practice 6 to 10 games on off days. I recently developed tennis elbow, and I've actively been treating it with multiple modalities so I can keep bowling. I've never heard that word before. So I can
I
keep
think
bowling.
I've
What
heard
have
the
you
word,
guys
but
done with injuries?
I actually had tennis elbow pretty bad, lefty.
Huh.
I guess it's been 2 years ago by now. I tell you, the dumbest thing I didn't think was going to work that actually worked is the Genesis, the KT tape or whatever that is.
Yeah.
I thought it's the dumbest thing, just putting tape on your arms. But I looked up a video for using, because they Genesis sent me a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, I'm not going to use this. People look stupid putting this tape all over themselves and putting the crosses on the knees and having it all over their arms and whatever. And like, actually, it did really support, and it kind of cured. Because man, it just tennis elbow sucks. It's just so bad, especially when I'm trying to get through videos and I can't even hardly hold the ball there. And no, I use some of the tape, and I think giving it a break. Number one, that's not the answer anybody wants to have. And normally it's like, well, I have this issue and I need to work through it. I can't just take, or I don't want to take 3 or 4 weeks off and just kind of let it heal. But icy hot helps, or the biofreeze or whatever would help loosen it up. But yeah, that tape did actually work wonders.
Mhm.
I can't believe it. I thought it was stupid, but it worked. Now, the tape is really, 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 really sticky. So when they say, yeah, put it on, just leave it on for 2 or 3 days and shower with it on, whatever else, that they mean that. Because I was like taking skin off.
Wow.
Because I tried to put the tape on one time just to see kind of how it felt, or while I was going down to a tournament, and it's like, yeah, this is kind of hurting, and I want to give it a shot. So I put it on and I did the thing. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. But I didn't want to walk it. It was the night before and we were going somewhere to eat. And I'm like, well, I don't want to walk into the restaurant with freaking tape on my arm. And so I peeled it off, and I'm like, I'm trying to peel it off and it's not going anywhere. And you can see my skin's like stretching, and I'm like, well, this kind of hurts. And then I finally kind of slowly peeled it off, and I've got like little red spots, and it's like, yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, you leave it on for a couple days, and then you just kind of take a couple showers, then it'll slowly kind of work its way off by itself. But yeah, I would honestly suggest the KT tape or whatever. And there's all kinds of videos that show, okay, if you have tennis elbow, put it on like this, put one strip here and one strip here, and it's dumb, but it works.
Yeah. The other one that's dumb but works really well, this is actually something I've dealt with for a long time. I was a pitcher in baseball all the way through till I was 18,
Yeah, I was too.
18 or 19. So, elbow issues are just bound to happen with that stupid sport.
Yeah.
And I run into it now, like in my summers, because I play sand volleyball and slow pitch softball, and then I bowl yet.
Yeah.
And, sand volleyball, overhead serves, plus I'm tall, so I'm one of our main hitters. So you're always spiking, you always have this motion. So your elbow just gets pretty beat up. Plus slow pitch softball, you're of course throwing a softball, so that runs into problems. So I run into this issue all the time in the summer, and my favorite way to fix it is a sleeve. Now it looks stupid, and a lot of people do it for looks, and it generally looks really dumb.
It always looks stupid.
Yep.
But if it works,
it is the greatest thing possible that I've ever had for all of those sports. I don't use it for bowling. It usually is good enough by then. But for softball and for volleyball, I will 100% of the time wear a sleeve, and I will get trash talked by the other team for doing it. Like, look at that idiot in the sleeve, usually with more harsher words than what YouTube likes me to use than that.
Yeah.
But it works so well. So I would recommend an actual usable sleeve, not like a cheap $2 one that you get that's just like has flames on it and looks cool or something.
Yeah.
Get like a real true, like even a shorter, like just for your elbow type sleeve. It works so well. It's crazy how much it works.
And that probably works the same way as the tape.
Yes.
So I would probably try the sleeve first before the tape. I think that would be more comfortable.
Yeah. The goal is just compression, really. Compression helps it.
And some support there. But that's probably.
And a lot of stretching. Make sure to stretch a lot when you have it, because that is generally a problem as well. In bowling, I know you have those guys who overstretch, but you also have guys who very much understretch as well in some of these situations. You run into an issue if you don't stretch a little bit. So I always like to stretch just like problem areas I have. Like if my hammy's feeling a little tight or my calves are tight, I'll stretch those and then I'll try to stretch my elbow and wrist in whatever way possible.
Yeah.
But that's in any sport. Like if you're doing any athletic stuff outside of bowling, I recommend some kind of protection on your elbow at all times, because bowling is just notorious for having that tennis elbow pop up.
Mm-hmm.
Zach is cheating being an actual athlete. I never said that. I'm washed up and retired now. Did you hear? I play slow pitch softball. Are you kidding me? Come
Yeah,
on.
I was. God, it's kind of funny for me that I was thinking about. Yeah, I'd like to get back into some slow pitch softball and whatever. It's like I can get in like over 40 leagues
Yeah.
now for stuff, so I don't have to play against the kids anymore.
Oh,
But
that'd be
yeah,
so
Angel,
nice.
my wife's down here kind of shaking her head at me. Like I'd like to play basketball again, but the amount of times
Ooh.
that I turned my ankle into a softball um from rolling my ankle, coming down, landed on somebody, and my my joints are really loose. Like when my shoulder issue, that which is why I'm both left-handed and right-handed, I dislocated my shoulder pretty bad playing basketball one time. Nobody touched me. Like I tried to go up for a layup and then swipe it under a new teammate, and my shoulder came out just from doing that.
Yep.
And it came out.
Ooh.
Yeah. She's like, "Oh, be careful there." I dislocated a toe stepping down off of an 8-inch curb once because I got a little off balance and it just sprung.
Oh God. Yeah.
So
Nope, that's totally fair.
this is why I bowl.
Yep, I've put away my basketball shoes pretty much
Yeah.
almost permanently. I have a sick pair of LeBrons that I bought a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because at where I used to work, they have a basketball court in the building near the gym. So
Mm-hmm.
every once a week people would go play basketball. And I was like, I want to go do that. And it was always fun. But then one week I dislocated my right, or was it, yeah, I think it was my right wrist on a fast break. And basketball is one
Yeah.
where it was like weekly somebody was getting hurt in that session. It's just it's basketball. It's like football in a lot of ways, where you're moving so fast and there's so many things happening, you are bound to get hurt in some way. Where softball, it's a little less common, which is nice. Yeah, we have a lot of people wearing sleeves over in the YouTube chat. KT tape is great. I did see a question for you. What do you think? We're already at 8:08, so we'll have just a couple minutes left. But who do you think Rookie of the Year will be?
I need to pay a little bit more attention to that. I would say it's probably going to be Brandon Bonner.
He's number 2 in points right now.
Probably. I think you would have a case for. Did Alex Horton won 2 titles?
Yeah, he won Shark and the TOC, but he might not have bowled enough events, I don't think, to qualify or something, because he hasn't bowled that much.
Yeah, I know Spencer won something, but I think it probably I would put my money on Brandon Bonner.
Yeah. Yep, that makes sense. Let's see. We'll go this one to end it from Larinsk. Do you have any advice for lefties going to nationals this year?
Oh, just like, lefties golfing, just don't do it. Just don't do it. Because I've got it's really, because I was talking to one of my buddies who he's been in a couple of my videos. He was down at Ozarks the same weekend, but he's the best bowler that you've never heard of. He bowls a lot of double stuff around it. Like Zach Wilkins bowls with our group, and this guy is the one that puts it together. And he's bowled several doubles events with Packy, and he carries Packy just as much as Packy carries him. And he's one of those guys. If you ask Zach or Packy about Trevor Baumgartner, they're going to go, "Oh my God, yeah." He didn't do that great at nationals this year. The left has been really tough at nationals the last several years. And when you're heading out to nationals and you see that Matt McNeil shot 550 in team and then 470 in doubles, it's like, well, this is just not happening. Basically, what Trevor told me is that, like, everybody was telling, oh, it's a softer year this year, you're going to be able to throw reactive balls. That's always not the case on any difficult condition on the left side of the lane. You're going to be in urethane the vast majority of the time, because we were talking about the track earlier and how much more friction it creates. Well, the track doesn't exist on the left side of the lane, so the oil plays wetter and the dry plays drier, because if you've got a track on the right side of the lane, Well, it's creating more friction with the lane. So the ball is going to start hooking earlier. It's going to start slowing down earlier. It's going to kind of be rounder and, create a little bit smoother, more gradual kind of transition between all the stages of ball motion. Well, on the left side of the lane, the ball just glides on the oil, and then as soon as it sniffs friction, it sees the friction all at the same time. And so that's why you see so many lefties being able to play like third or fourth arrow with a purple hammer. And if you see it on the right side of the lane, well, they really can't get that deep in, and that's exactly why it is, because the ball glides on the left side and then it turns really sharp. And so that's why most lefties throw short pins if they're throwing reactive, or concepts or urethane or whatever else, because they're just trying to control the shape and keep the front to back kind of manageable. And he said it was like, yeah, it was just another urethane year. And I think the 5-ish years that I bowled nationals, I threw reactive one time. It was a promotion. It was the first 3 games of team. It was team the first year that I went, and literally every single other game I threw at nationals was pitch black, black hammer, IQ 78, purple hammer when we could throw them. And so that's just kind of what you got to do, is just urethane, stay out of trouble. Hopefully you can go watch other squads. I think that's the biggest help, is going and watching and seeing what other people are doing, seeing where they're playing on the lane generally. But yeah, it's mostly just relying on urethane, unfortunately, as a lefty. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah. What you can do, though, is send a strongly worded email to Matt McNeil and yell at him for winning so many times in a row, because after that point, the left has gotten very hard.
Yeah.
So I call it the Matt McNeil effect. He's from Minnesota, and we would hear about it all the time, especially when I got into bowling in like 2015. That was when he was really whacking them, and he was kind of known as that. And then it was just, yeah, that's just what it ended up becoming, is the Matt McNeil effect of the left is really hard at nationals now because he crushed it so hard.
Yeah, and I think there is a lefty two-hander that just took over the all events lead at like 2270 or something.
Yeah, I think a college kid.
Yeah, he was just kind of two-handed spinning a black hammer, I think. So urethane, and people will say, "Oh, well, yeah, the all events leader." It's like, somebody, I think I was saying something to, I had put some post on Facebook a couple years ago about how hard nationals was, and Wriggles said something about, it's like, oh yeah, well, Justin Knowles is in second, and I'm like, how many other lefties are in the top 50?
Yep.
0.
Yeah. It's great that Justin Knowles, one of the greatest lefties of the last, like, in the United States right now, can do that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's like that's really helpful.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Barks was there from JR, and he said they were tough on the left, that's for sure.
So, that's kind of what the story is, and just don't be too hard on yourself. And that's what actually kind of helped me out, because it's like, yeah, if you go out there and on the right side, you're going to have all kinds of different things happen depending on who you're crossing with and how the lanes transition and whatever else. But on the left, you're just not going to, unless you stack a team with lefties, you're going to have a really similar experience to most of the other lefties that bowl the tournament, because you're going to bowl on the fresh, you're going to bowl on it all day long, and you're just going to kind of get what you get. And so it's like, man, if Matt McNeil goes out there and he can't whack them, I feel pretty good about, shooting 550 every set or whatever, since I'm not even supposed to be a lefty, but
fake lefty.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to end on one more question. We got a TikTok question. Rev, what's going on over there? You're asking for our thoughts on the Rubicon UC3. UC3 was one of the weirdest balls ever made.
Yes.
Yeah, it was Tourethane was the cover. It wasn't urethane. It was trying to act like it, but it had a mild ASIM core in it in the original Rubicon core, which is basically what's in the Gremlin now. It's a little amped up, but it was just super strong, kind of slow, and just weird.
Yeah, and I actually did a couple different videos on this, because when I did the review at first, it's like it's like the Pink Widow, like it's got the purple cover on it, and it just hooked, and then it turned sideways, and then it hooked even more because it was an ASIM with that big strong 500 grit cover on it, and it's kind of like it just kept hooking and never stopped. The UC3 was kind of in that same zone. And so it's like, well, it's kind of okay, but it's just, I don't know when you'd ever use it. And then I polished it up, and it became like a god ball. it was just like a slower, it was kind of like an Omega Crux, actually, for those that remember that, just kind of a big, slow, it just turned into a completely different ball with shine on it. And I actually really liked it lefty once I got it shined up, because it would still roll like a stronger ball, and it wasn't urethane, and it flared, but it was more controllable. It was more gradual, more controllable. And so I actually have a couple of them left, I'm pretty sure. I ordered a couple more. And so, yeah, very, again, like you said, very weird ball. The UC3, I have one left.
One? Nice.
I had like 3 or 4 of them. I probably won't drill another one, and I'm not sure about the applications righty, but I really liked it lefty once I polished it. But
yeah,
out of the box was weird.
It was definitely one of the most unique balls that has come out in the last like 10 years. By far.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. I think that's going to be about everything that we're going to have for today. We're about 15 minutes over, but I want to thank everybody who hopped in. Where can you find Luke? Perfect answer is going to be YouTube. His link is down in the description below. Look at that. YouTube.com/@ Luke Rosdahl is where you're going to find him. It's down in the description. You can just look up Luke Rosdahl Bowling. You're going to find him, or Luke Rosdahl, whatever it may be. He has a Facebook as well, but make sure to go subscribe to him. He's making some awesome reviews. He hinted at us, as we unsurprisingly knew, there's a lot of releases coming very soon. So he's going to have a lot of videos coming out. So hopefully we're going to see a lot of great ones coming from them. Usually this is the time of the year where a lot of bangers come out, and I'm guessing you're seeing a lot of bangers on that list. You don't have to answer that if you absolutely can't, but it's going to be fun. It'll be fun. So make sure to go sub to him to see some of the best ball reviews on the internet right now. Otherwise, Luke, any final words from you?
No, this was a great time. I'm glad that you came down and bowled Ozarks. It was a great time. It's always nice to talk to other people that are kind of in this space and network a little bit. And but yeah, I really appreciate you having me on. This was a lot of fun, and any chance I can get to ramble, I will take it. So.
Well, that might be happening soon. I'm gonna try a harebrained effort of trying to get the bowling content creator Avengers together at some point in the near future. There's a couple of people who I think we can get on a call at some point, or a round table at some point. So make sure to subscribe to both channels. You're going to see some interesting things coming soon. But otherwise, I want to thank everybody for hopping in. You've been seeing a bunch of sponsors popping up right above my head. Make sure to go check all of them out. They're all amazing. Thank you guys all so much for hopping in. TikTok, I'm going to say goodbye to you first. TikTok, thanks for being here today. Appreciate it. I will see you all on the next one. And then we have all of our short form. TikTok was weird today, unfortunately. It did not like that it said I was reproducing my content or something, so that was lovely. But long form content places, thank you so much. We will see you all on the next one as well. Quick FYI, I will be live on Friday for some PBA Pro Bowling 2026. Big update coming out. I can't say much about it yet, but it's going to be really fun. We'll be live 11 a.m. Central Time. Make sure to tune in for that. See you all later.